Alright, I'm finally doing it. You guys have been asking for this for literally years. I'm finally reading and reviewing the infamous cat and mouse duology of Haunting Adeline and Hunting Adeline. I have been putting this off for so long because I knew I was going to hate these books, and they still exceeded my expectations, and I hated them even more than I expected to. I have so much to say about these books. If you've seen any of my other videos, you'll know that I am not a fan of books that romanticize abuse. And I do feel like in particular these books just excuse and normalize abusive men and romanticize their behavior to a great degree, and I'm never going to be okay with that. The fiction isn't real life argument just doesn't work for me, because we all know that reading fiction can have benefits to people. It can help them increase empathy, help them understand people in situations they've never been in themselves. Reading fiction can positively influence how we act, who we are, and how we treat people. And I fully believe it can also do the opposite as well. I just don't see how people who repeatedly read about abuse and violence against women being normal and romanticized aren't going to internalize that in some way, even if they don't realize that's what they're doing. I'm going to be discussing that in more detail throughout this video, but today we are going in depth with these books. I am taking you through them step by step, quote by quote, all 1,300 or so pages of this books. I'm going to be bringing in some other studies and research to support my opinions at times. So if you're into quick surface level reviews, this video and my channel in general might not be for you. But if you want to come on a little journey with me, sit for a few hours, maybe have me on in the background while you're doing crafts, while you're doing housework, if you want to listen to this video in parts, if you want to put it on, well actually maybe don't fall asleep to this one, it's a bit dark. But if you like your big in-depth videos, then please come on this journey with me. I am so grateful to have you. So, just to be completely open with you guys, these books cover some really, really damn dark topics. We are going to be talking about rape, child abuse, violence, sexual violence against women. There's some strong language, but I am going to try and censor it. It's a really, really damn difficult read. So if you need to skip this video for your own mental health, please do. It's not a fun one. So just be careful, please. During editing, I'm also going to be adding in some other clips from other people's reviews so that you can kind of compare and contrast their reactions with mine to certain aspects of the book and certain characters and so on. So I think it's going to be an interesting experience. Let's go. So we're starting with book 1, which is Haunting Adeline. It opens with a trigger warning, which I would be grateful for, except let's read it. Warning, this book ends on a cliffhanger. Yeah, because that's the most important thing to start with, right? The contents are very dark, with triggering situations such as CNC, which is consensual non-consent, violence, human trafficking, and disturbing situations. This book was previously taken down due to the warning. Please find them in reviews or feel free to message me directly. I was a little confused by what that last line meant, but let's just move on. So, at least there's a warning, but it's not actually a great start. So many of these dark romance books, as they call themselves, or as I prefer to call them, romanticized abuse novels, or even just abuse porn. I do feel like a lot of them don't do the trigger warnings as... or they don't take them as seriously as they should, I should say. Like, they say here, this contains consensual non-consent. Can we please stop pretending that straight up rape is CNC, because it's not. Consensual non-consent, the key word there is consent. It's usually a role-play situation with elements of coercion or force that have been discussed beforehand by both participants. It's a role-play situation. The actual consent behind it all is what's important. There are safe words. The participants can stop at any time. But when you have situations like in this book, where a character is just straight up sexually assaulting another character, and then they try and justify it afterwards with, ooh, it was orgasm, that's not consensual non-consent, that is just rape. And this book does not have a trigger warning for rape, and it should. This book and the sequel are filled with rape after rape after rape. There's, I think in the first book, only 2 to 3 out of about 15 sex scenes that are actually consensual. Everything else is just sexual assault, and it's awful. I am genuinely concerned about inaccurate content warnings and trigger warnings, because this means that people will be potentially exposed to traumatic content without being prepared for it. So editing me here is just going through this first part of the video, and I thought I would just double check through the trigger warnings, because I got a little bit later on where I look at the trigger warnings and content warnings that she has on her website, but I wanted to check that I had the latest version of the book, and because I've seen some reviews where she's got
more information on the front page. So it turns out that I have an older version of the ebook, and the newer version that is currently available on Amazon in the UK does list more trigger warnings. It lists more triggers. It's more comprehensive, which is good. I have to not applaud that, but at least commend it a bit. This new content warning that she's got does list non/dubious consent as one of the triggers. However, it's not dubious consent, it's just missing consent. And can we stop trying to downplay it by being well, it's maybe non-consent. It's just non-consent. It's just, let's call it what it is. It's rape. It is rape of the main character by the other main character, by the love interest. It's glamorization of rape. So while this new updated trigger warning is better, it's still not perfect. It's still not, in my mind, good enough. And sometimes I feel just because you add a trigger warning, that doesn't mean you can just write about whatever you want without it having consequences for real people, you know? Also, sorry, Kubi's having a grumble in the background because she's ready for bed.
I was actually reading up on the importance of content warnings as part of this video because I thought, maybe I'm just overreacting, but I don't think I am. It's about giving people a free choice over what they want to consume and allowing them to actually give informed consent and not exposing them to potentially distressing or disturbing content without that consent, I did find some really bizarre opinions online, though, of people who disagree with me. So one person asked Reddit if they thought that books should contain content warnings, and one person responded with saying that if you support content warnings on books, you are indirectly advocating for censorship because such a system would most certainly be used to blanket ban any book with a certain warning from public schools or other libraries. People go very far out of their way to make sure other people aren't exposed to ideas that they don't like because ideas are dangerous, and the only thing more dangerous than ideas are people that can form their own opinions about ideas. In short, if it can be abused, it will be abused. I can't agree with this. I don't think providing a warning to people is the same thing as censorship. Yes, a warning system could be abused, but that doesn't mean we shouldn't have a warning system in the first place, We can be against banning books for political reasons without being against warning people that, hey, this book might traumatize you. Hey, this book might trigger some bad memories. Hey, this book contains distressing scenes, Is a person being allowed to write about the glorification of rape really more important than the well-being and the right of a person to not be unknowingly re-traumatized by a book they chose to read for fun? People always talk about the right of the authors having free speech and, they should be able to do what they want and this and this and this. But I'm what about survivors of sexual assault? What about people who have been traumatized in their life, and then you're here writing about the glorification of everything horrific they went through and sexualizing it and romanticizing it and normalizing it? What about survivors' rights to feel safe and comfortable and not be essentially re-traumatized and re-victimized again? What about them? I did read a really nice blog post about this, which put it like this. At its core, providing a content warning is an act of kindness and respect. It recognises that literature can evoke strong emotions, allowing readers to approach your work in a way that honours their experiences and well-being. And I kind of love that. I think that's a really beautiful way of looking at it, and it's a really important way to approach things. As an annoying fly in the house, I'm so sorry. And I think this is why it's so important. And if you value blanket free speech over encouraging thoughtful kindness in people, then I think you're missing the point of having free speech in the first place. But yeah, like I say, ultimately it's about consent, isn't it? And allowing the reader to be able to give informed consent or not. And I guess it doesn't surprise me that H.T. Carlton, the author of these books, doesn't bother to label her books and content warnings correctly, because why would she care about her readers' consent when she's constantly violating her characters' consent and glorifying their rape and abuse? Of course she doesn't care about anyone's consent, real or fictional. I keep seeing people online saying things like, if you don't like it, close the book. But it's not that simple, is it? Once you've read something, just because you stop reading or close the book, that doesn't just erase it from your head. It stays in there. Once you've read it, once you've consumed it, once you've thought about it, it's in there. And if you, read something without knowing where it's going, that's just already in your head. Sure, you can stop reading and before it gets worse, but you've already got some of the bad stuff. You've had to experience the bad stuff to know it was there. And that's just messed up, isn't it? it doesn't disappear from your head just because you stop reading. It doesn't go away and get erased just because you stop reading. I know it's a little different for me because I forced myself to read these books for work. I went in knowing they would be bad, although I didn't realize how bad they would be. So at least I was a little bit more informed than a lot of people reading these books, and I forced myself to keep reading through the difficult bits. So like I say, it's different for me, I get that. But even I was so shocked at some of this content that I had to stop and take a break and like just step away from these books and be like, I need space. I need to go out in the real world. I need to clear my head a little bit. I'd go and take a nap at some points, or like go to sleep on a night after writing my script for this and reading these books. And I was having nightmares about this stuff, because just because you stop reading doesn't mean it goes away, you know? So even as kind of emotionally prepared as I tried to make myself, these books really messed me up. Like, I was struggling, and so I can't imagine what this would be like for, say, like if a rape survivor picked this up expecting romance and a little bit of consensual non-consent, and instead they got this. I cannot imagine what it would be like for them if they went in completely unprepared because the author didn't provide trigger warnings. Okay, that aside, let's get into the story. So, the prologue opens with our narrator, Adeline, or Addie, being stalked. Someone is watching her from outside her window while she casually wanders around her home half naked. She can't decide if she's terrified or a little bit into it. It keeps going back and forth. It's like, am I scared? Am I turned on? Am I scared? Am I turned on? And it's over and over and over. And the prologue is repetitive, but then that's the whole book. It's just repetitive. And it's not realistic, is it? In the real world, no regular human would have this reaction. So we're already having to suspend our disbelief here, just a couple of pages in. There are passages like, my heart skips a beat and then palpitates. My breathing turns shallow and my hands grow clammy. It doesn't matter how many times I see him. He always pulls the same reaction out of me. Fear and excitement. I don't know why it excites me. Something must be wrong with me. It's not normal for liquid heat to course through my veins, leaving tingles burning in its wake. Yeah, that's the quality of writing we're getting. It does not get better, I'm afraid. In fact, it gets a lot worse. Of course, she is a silly little rich girl who inherited a massive family mansion, because they always are in these books, aren't they? She says, I inherited this house from my grandparents. My great-grandparents had built the 3-story Victorian home back in the early 1940s through blood, sweat, tears, and the lives of 5 construction workers. I hate her and her family already. Let's not glamorize the exploitation and literal death of working class people, please. Can we just not? Chapter 1 opens with our narrator saying, sometimes I'm not always sane, while she complains about having dark thoughts about her mother because her mum says the house she's living in is unsafe and needs to be torn down. Yeah, don't we all have evil fantasies about people who are just concerned for our well-being? The mother-daughter relationship in this book is so damn messed up and weird, and it just feels like women hating women for the sake of it, I think the author is trying to make Addie edgy but relatable, but I just don't relate at all. She's just like edgy to the point of cringe. I don't like Addie. I'm sorry, I don't. She doesn't deserve to go through the stuff she goes through in these books, but I don't like her as a character. She's quite annoying. She's very annoying. The mum says, just because your grandparents gave you the house doesn't mean you have to actually live in it. It's old and would be doing everyone in that city a favour if it were torn down. I thumped my head against a headrest, rolling my eyes upwards and trying to find patience weaved into the stained roof of my car. How did I manage to get ketchup up there? And just because you don't like it doesn't mean I can't live in it, I retort dryly. My mother is a bitch, plain and simple. She's always had a chip on her shoulder, and for the life of me, I can't figure out why. Yeah, I'm really over women calling other women bitches. Can we just not at this point? The amount of times women are called bitches in this series is disturbing. It's done by women to other women just to put them down. It's done by men to put women down repeatedly. She's a bitch, you're a bitch. Like, I'm just tired of it. I'm absolutely over it. I still don't see either how from this one line of dialogue we're meant to hate the mum, but apparently we are. I don't get it. Her mum seems quite sane. Her mum and dad are two of the only sane characters in this entire series, especially the dad, and he's painted to be a villain in all this. Like, he's a big bad. Like, even at the end of the series, she doesn't make up with her dad. She just cuts him out of her life for good, and it's insane. Oh, no. We love the dad. We don't actually see him until, like, the last 50 pages of book 2, but he's the only sane one in this series. So immediately we're told Mum's a terrible person. Grandma, who she inherited the house from, was an absolute angel. She could do no wrong. We can't question it, just accept it as it is, as the author goes on another page-long rant about how awful this woman, her mum, who seems pretty reasonable on paper, we get a page-long rant about how awful she actually is. We have to hate her because reasons. Mum didn't get along with Nana. I never understood the tension between them, but as I got older and started to comprehend Mum's snarkiness and underhanded insults for what they were, it made sense. Nana always had a positive, sunny outlook on life, viewing the world through rose-coloured glasses. She was always smiling and humming, while Mum is cursed with a perpetual scowl on her face, and looking at life like her glasses got smashed when she was plunged out of Nana's vagina. I don't know why her personality never developed past that of a porcupine. She was never raised to be a prickly bitch. Again, can we just not? Ugh. Our narrator Addie info dumps her backstory, which stops being relevant after the first, 50 pages of this book, so there we go. She dropped out of college, moved in with her mum or grandma. It's hard to tell from the way it's written. I assume it's grandma because she likes her, but it's really unclear. Either way, she relied on someone in her family to financially support her and emotionally support her and physically support her, until she became a successful indie writer, self-insert, and then she went travelling for a while, and then her grandma died and left her this massive mansion, and now she's living in it, and she hates her mum for God knows what reason. The author tries to set this house up as creepy and isolated, and Addie is just so edgy and not like the other girls because she actually likes it because it's creepy. Parsons Manor is situated on a cliffside overlooking the bay with a mile-long driveway stretching through a heavily wooded area. The congregation of trees separates this house from the rest of the world, making you feel like you're well and truly alone. Sometimes it feels like you're on an entirely different planet, ostracized from civilization. The whole area has a menacing, sorrowful aura, and I effing love it. Now, this cliff is something that keeps coming back up, and I was like, oh, this is gonna, be a point of, the setting for a lot of action at the end of the book or something like that. No, it's barely relevant at all. Coupled with the looming storm in the background, Parsons Manor looked like a scene out of a horror film. I suck my bottom lip between my teeth, unable to stop the smile from forming on my face. I love that. I can't explain why, but I do. F what my mother says, I'm living here. You don't need to tell us over and over and over again, once was enough. But that's the thing in this book. So much repetition and page filler. These two books did not need to be 1,300 pages. They could have been 500 between them, if that. So Addie's a writer, she's doing a signing in a bookshop, and we know she's super successful because hordes of people show up. At least 30. It's not that I'm not excited, I just tend to get incredibly awkward during book signings. I'm not a natural when it comes to social interactions. I'm the type to stare dead in your face with a frozen smile after being asked a question while my brain processes the fact that I didn't even hear the question. It's usually because my heart is thumping too loud in my ears. Addie is relatable. She's just like me and you. She has social anxiety too, but the difference is everyone finds it super hot when she does it. I carefully write out her name and a quick appreciation note. My signature is sloppy, but that pretty much represents the entirety of my existence. Can a romance novel just have a capable protagonist for once, please? Just someone who is a normal, functioning adult and not some, oh, I'm just a clumsy, messy, ditzy little girl for once. And also, this apparent sloppiness, never comes up again. She's not sloppy. We never see any evidence of her being sloppy. We're told she is in, the first 10 pages. She has ketchup stains in her car and she writes a sloppy signature. But then it's never relevant again. While she is at the book signing, she feels someone watching her, but it's different. Someone is staring at me, but that's an effing stupid thought because everyone is staring at me. I try to ignore it and give the next reader a big bum smile, but there's so much swearing in this book. I'm having to censor all of it, and it doesn't always make sense, but just bear with me. The feeling only intensifies until it feels like bees are buzzing beneath the surface of my skin while a torch is being held to my flesh. It's It's unlike anything I've felt before. The hairs on the back of my neck rise, and I feel the apples of my cheeks heating to a bright red. So I guess this is how we're going to justify stalking and harassment throughout this book. Because they're soulmates, and it's different to regular stalking or something. It feels different. Yes, this is how she tries to justify it. My gaze hooks on a lone person standing in the very back. A man. The crowd shrouds the majority of his body, only bits of his face peeking through the gaps between people's heads. But what I do see has my hands stilling mid-right. His eyes, one so dark and bottomless it feels like staring into a well, and the other an ice blue so light it's nearly white, reminding me of a husky's eyes. A scar slashes straight down through the discoloured eye, as if it didn't already demand attention. And this is the first meeting between her and her stalker. And don't worry, we see this from his perspective too. It still makes no sense why. We'll get there. Next up, she goes and gets drunk with her friend Dyer, who says she needs to have more sex, and that she clearly has offers because you've had plenty of opportunities, you just don't take them. You're a hot 26-year-old woman with freckles and a great pair of breasts and a bum to die for. The men are out here waiting. I shrug, deflecting again. Dyer isn't exactly wrong, at least about having some options. I'm just not interested in any of them. They all bore me. This book is exhausting to read. Also, Addie very clearly has an alcohol problem. Like, the amount of her just getting casually drunk all of the time is concerning. So, Addie at this point apparently hasn't had sex in a year, so her friend sends the cringiest text messages to some random guy in Addie's phone, and he's like, sure, I'll come over and have sex with you. And then we get these, like, horrific lines like, F Addie, I've missed you. Grayson breathes into my neck, humping me against the wall. My tailbone is going to be bruised in the morning. I roll my eyes while he slurps at my neck again, groaning when he rolls his penis into the apex of my thighs. I can't deal with this nonsense. But hey, at least this is consensual, unlike most other things in the book. Anyway, they're interrupted by someone banging angrily on the front door, but when she opens it, there's no one there. Ooh, how spooky. There's someone watching me, I can feel it. I'm as sure of it as I am about the existence of gravity. Oh, the writing. The guy she's with is like, oh well, let's have sex anyway. And she's like, nah, someone just banged on my door, don't be silly. And then he calls her a bitch and swears a lot. There are 36 uses of bitch in this book, and 6 of them are in the first chapter alone. He says, you're such a bitch, Addie. All you do is give me blue balls, and I'm sick of it. I'm done with you and this creepy effing house. He seethes, pointing a finger at me. And you're a bumhole. Get the F out of my house, Grayson. His eyes widen with shock first, and then narrow into thin slits, brimming with fury. He turns, cocks his arm back, and sends his fist flying into the drywall. A gasp is ripped from my throat when half of his arm disappears, my mouth parting in both shock and disbelief. Since I'm not getting yours, I thought I'd create my own hole to get into tonight. Fix that bitch, he spits. Still supporting only one sock and an armful of clothes, he storms out. Every man in this book is terrible. Other than Addie's dad, every man is horrific. There's not a good man in this book. Even this guy who, like, is just a regular, normal guy, like, even he's an abusive piece of crap. You don't do this just because she said she didn't want to have sex right now. You don't punch holes in people's walls. Like, no. This chapter ends with a diary entry from 1944, and we find out later these are written by Addie's great-grandmother, Gigi. She says, there's a strange man outside my window. I don't know who he is or what he wants from me, but I think he knows me. He watches me through the windows when John's not home, and he wears a top hat on his head, concealing his face from me. I try to approach him, but when I do, he runs away. I'm very afraid of this strange man, but my God, am I also intrigued? I thought more would come of these diary entries, but it turns out they're actually kind of pretty useless because, like, we read them, but they tell us stuff that we've already read about in the text. I'll tell you when we get there. Point is, they're pointless and annoying. And I also just hate that whole secondary story from the past because it's... Anyway. Chapter 2 is written from the stalker's perspective, and he's busy torturing someone to try and get some information out of them about something vague at first, and then it turns out he's like hunting sex traffickers and paedophiles, and that's his job. And we're supposed to think he's a good person because he kills rapists despite being a rapist himself. Make it make sense. So, oh god, and it's like he's written like an edgy 15-year-old boy who just learned how to like code a website with HTML, like, and he now thinks he's a master hacker. That's his entire tone for these 2 books. Sometimes it sucks being the hacker and the enforcer. I really effing enjoy hurting people, but tonight I have no goddamn patience for this whiny bumhole, and normally I have the patience of a saint. I'd already cut off one of his ears, along with ripping off 10 of his fingernails, severed both Achilles' heels and a couple of stab wounds in specific locations that won't allow the effort to bleed out too quickly, and too many broken bones to count. Penis Head won't be getting up and walking out of here, that's for damn sure. It's just unnecessary, isn't it? So it turns out the guy that he's torturing is giving him information about some guy involved in sex trafficking children, and is himself a child rapist, so our creepy stalker man kills him. I can't be too mad about that, but I feel like the graphic descriptions of the torture were unnecessary, and the way Stalker Man gets off to the torture and violence is weird as hell. Like, he has some problems. There's also some bits where he's just like oddly apathetic, and he's more grossed out by the sounds of torture rather than what he's doing to another human being, you know? Very odd. Like I say, it feels like it's written by a teenager trying to be edgy, and this man is supposed to be like 30-something, and he sounds like a teenager himself. Sorry, this is gross, get ready for this. I slide my knife from the eye socket, the suction noise threatening to ruin any dinner plans I had in the next several hours, which is annoying because I'm hungry. While I do enjoy myself a good torture session, I'm definitely not a penis head that gets off on the sounds that accompany it. The gurgling, slurping, and other weird noises bodies make when enduring extreme pain and foreign objects being plunged into them is not a soundtrack I'd ever want to fall asleep to. And for now, the worst part, dismembering it into bits and pieces and disposing of them properly. I don't trust other people to do it for me, so I'm stuck with the tedious, messy job. I sigh. What is that saying? If you want it done right, do it yourself. So afterwards he goes to get a burger, and on the way he passes the bookshop where Addie was doing the book signing earlier, and this is where he just becomes obsessed with her from like a single glance. I spare it, the bookshop, a single glance before moving on. I don't care about fiction books. I only read the ones that are going to teach me something, particularly about computer science and hacking. By now, there's nothing those books can teach me anymore. I've mastered and then surpassed it. He's actually insufferable. He's the worst. Like, all these characters are the worst. Ugh. So he sees Addie through the window, and instantly he's all like, oh my god, she's perfect and so obsessed, and blah, 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 blah. It's really annoying to read. Get ready to cringe, okay? Before me is a picture of an author that's hosting a book signing. She's effing incredible. Long, wavy cinnamon hair brushed over dainty shoulders, creamy ivory skin with freckles dotting her nose and cheeks, light and sporadic without overwhelming her innocent face. Her eyes are what draw me in, sultry, slanted eyes, the type that always looks seductive without trying. They're nearly the same colour as her hair, a brown so light it's unusual. One look from this girl and any man would be on their knees. Her lips are pouty and pink, stretched into a radiant smile with straight white teeth. I note the name below the picture. Adeline Riley. A beautiful name fit for a goddess. I hate this bit. She doesn't have that plastic beauty you see lining the magazine rack, though she could easily make it on one of those covers without Photoshop and surgery. Her features are natural. I've seen a lot of beautiful women in my life, effed a lot too, but something about her captivates me. It feels like a hurricane is at my back, pushing me towards her and leaving no room for resistance. My feet are carrying me into the bookstore, my black boots soaking the welcome mat at the entrance. Did we really need to compare her to other women like that and put other women down with her, well, her beauty's natural, everyone else is just plastic and fake? Like, can we not? This book was written in like 2021 or something, like, so not even that long ago. Like, let's not go back to that stupid 90s pitting women against women thing, please. Let's just not do it, yeah? Right, he says, oxygen, words, coherent thoughts. All that poop escapes me when I get my first look at Adeline Riley in the flesh. Poop. She's even more exquisite in person. The sign of her has my knees weakening and my pulse racing. I don't know if God really exists, I don't know if mankind has ever walked on the moon, nor do I know if parallel universes exist. But what I do know is that I just found the meaning of life sitting behind a table with an awkward smile on her face. I feel like sometimes when you replace the swear words with like the actual words they are, like it kind of just makes you realize how silly it sounds to use some of them in the moment. It just anyway. But yeah, I think it's reading stuff like this in books that makes me think that any kind of romance book, even if this was healthy, and it's not, I think it's maybe not for me, because I don't find this kind of thing appealing or romantic.
Okay, editing me here, and I just have to jump in and say, like, I think I worded this wrong. It's not that I'm against, like, romance in books, because I think if it is written well and kind of like it's realistic, but, you know, aspirational, it can be really lovely. So earlier this year I read The Binding by, I think it's Bridget Collins. I'll pop a picture on screen. And that is a book that relies very heavily on the romance elements, and I thought it was absolutely lovely. And I loved the slow build of the relationship between the couple, and I thought it was really, really lovely, and I was really rooting for them, and I felt very invested in them. So I can like romance when it's done well, you know? I just don't like the obsessive lust being portrayed as love. That's what I don't like, I think, you know?
Like, I absolutely believe in attraction at first sight, you know? I think you can look at someone and be like, wow, okay, I'm really interested in getting to know them more, whether that's physically or socially or whatever, and you can be like, wow. But this idea that, like, you see a person you think is hot, and they've just given you the meaning of life, you're calling them a goddess, like, it's giving obsessive, it's giving love bombing, it's giving he loves the idea of you and not the real you. And I just find that whole thing really unhealthy and not romantic and not sexy, you know? I get the ick from that sort of thing. I went on a date a few months back with this guy, and we got on really well, and I thought it was great. And then a couple of hours in, he told me that he thought he was falling in love with me, and then he got quite drunk, and he actually said that he thinks he loves me. And I was like, mate, you've known me for like 3 hours. Like, no you don't. And it massively gave me the ick straight away, and I was like, ugh, no, can't do that. So that's the vibes I'm getting here. I'm just like, it feels so surface level, and like he's actually incapable of having genuine emotions and feelings if he thinks that this instant lust is love and the meaning of life, you know? It just, ugh, ick, no. Her voice is pure smoke, the kind you only really hear in porn videos. I suck in my bottom lip, biting back a groan. Like, shut up. That's not a compliment, and that's not normal. Like, so apparently H.D. Carlton, who wrote this book, is a woman. There are photos of her online. There's videos of her online.
You know, even still, after all this time, I underestimate you guys sometimes, and how seriously you take Zayd and Addie.
And yet I find it really hard to believe this wasn't actually written by some porn-obsessed, misogynistic man who's never met a woman before in his life. It literally befuddles my mind that this was written by a woman. Something inexplicably dark arises in my chest. It's black and evil and cruel. Dangerous, even. All I want to do is break her, shatter her into pieces, and then arrange those pieces to fit against my own. I don't care if they don't fit, I'll effing make them. And I know I'm about to do something bad. I know I'm going to cross lines that I will never be able to come back from, but there's not an ounce of me that gives an F, because I'm obsessed. I'm addicted, and I will gladly cross every single line if it means making this girl mine, if it means forcing her to be mine. So there we go. It's unhealthy, it's creepy as hell. That's terrifying, right? That's not sexy. That's not sexy at all. That's the opposite of sexy. That's like my vagina's drying up and shriveling up and closing for life. There's going to be a seal over it that is unbreakable after reading this. No matter, she won't be able to escape me now. I've just found myself a little mouse, and I won't stop until I've trapped her. This is not romantic escapism. This is like an actual fear that I and other women live with every single day. Stalking and violence against women is such a common thing. It ruins so many lives. I don't see what's appealing about it at all. I don't see what's romantic or sexy. The chapter ends with another diary entry from the grandma, which is basically the same as the first one, so we won't go over it. In chapter 3, Addie finds a hidden safe in her house, which she breaks into. casually, as you do, I guess, and she finds a bunch of journals written by her great-grandmother, Genevieve or Gigi, which are what we've been reading the excerpts from between chapters. She falls asleep reading the journals, but we don't know what's in them yet because she hasn't told us, but when she wakes up she hears her front door slam and thinks someone was in her house. It was creepy stalker man, and he's left a single red rose in her kitchen, but it's okay because he cut the thorns from the stem to stop it hurting her. So, I mean, at least he put, like, an iota of thought into it before invading her home, breaking in, violating her privacy, you know? How thoughtful. Instead of calling the police, she decides to storm around the house with a knife, which is just stupid, isn't it? Call the police. She says, and then to have the audacity to leave me a flower like an effing weirdo. They may have made the rose powerless by clipping its thorns, but I will gladly show them a rose is still effing deadly when it's shoved down their throat. Oh look, it's a metaphor for her character in the book. How clever. Like, genuinely, that's her character arc in book 2. She has her thorns clipped, and then she shoves it down their throat. You'll see. Addie tells her friend Daya about the person breaking in, and we get another info dump. Yeah, it's half of it's what we already know, the rest is about Daya. I dropped out of college after a year and pursued my writing career while Daya got a degree in computer science. Somehow she wormed her way into some hacker group and is pretty much a vigilante for the people exposing the government's secrets to the public. She's the biggest conspiracy theorist I've ever met, but even I can admit the poop she finds is disturbing and has too much evidence to be considered a theory anymore. Like, is anyone in this world just average and normal? Like, not some super high elite expert master hacker in whatever field they're in. Just someone normal would be nice, please. Yeah. Back to the grandma, and Stalker Man walks into her house and then just stands there and yeah, whatever. He's so beautiful, piercing blue eyes, a strong jawline, and big, so very big. He approached me, still refusing to speak. He caressed my face with his fingers so gently. He circled around me, letting his fingers drift across my skin. I shivered beneath his touch, and he smiled. His smile made my heart stop in my chest. And then he left, walked out without a word. I almost pleaded for him to come back, but I stopped myself. He'll be back. Again, this is not normal. It's creepy and weird as hell. In chapter 4, Daya comes over to help Addie clean out some of her dead grandma's stuff from the house, and while she's there, creepy guy breaks in again, leaves another note, drinks a glass of her whiskey, but never mind, they just get on with clearing the house anyway, which is weird. And then there's some confusion about, like, what is happening here, right? Because, so they're out in the middle of nowhere. You can only get to this house via car, via a long, windy road, right? Because middle of nowhere, surrounded by cliffs and a forest, and this one road in and out. And she says in this passage that they took several trips to Goodwill to donate a bunch of stuff, but they were also drinking alcohol all day. Like, literally from the moment Daya got there, they're drinking alcohol. They were drinking before the stalker broke in, they had a few more mixed drinks before Addie told her about the stalker, and then they had a few more drinks afterwards. So it's safe to say they were pretty drunk all day. So how did they get to Goodwill to donate these boxes? Were they driving drunk? Because that's just very irresponsible. Or the author is just not bothering to think through the things she's writing. It annoys me. It was at this point, like 4 chapters in, it took me this long to notice, the chapters were either labelled as the manipulator or the shadow, depending on whose perspective it was written from. Addie is annoying as hell and stupid, but I don't understand why she's called the manipulator, and it feels kind of victim blamey if I'm being honest. The creepy stalker being a mere shadow feels like it's kind of downplaying the seriousness of what he's done and will continue to do, but here we are. There is one moment later in this book where we kind of find out why Addie is called the manipulator, but it doesn't hold up, because none of her actions in this or the second book make her a manipulator. She doesn't manipulate anyone. I don't understand it. In chapter 5, she finally makes a police report, but they don't take her seriously. That is the most realistic thing about these 2 books. Seriously, like, stalking is not taken seriously by the police at all in any country around the world. So that is the one realistic thing happening. Of course, the stalking escalates. He starts leaving flowers in more places, including inside her locked car. Like, later in the chapter, Addie's mum visits her, and Addie is unnecessarily rude to her the entire time, and it ends with her mum saying, "Do you want to know why Parsons Manor deserves to be torn down, Addie?" She asks, her tone dripping with condescension. She sounds like she's about to school me, and suddenly I feel very wary. "Why?" I ask quietly. "Because a lot of people died in this house." And then we get the revelation that the great-grandmother whose journals she's been reading was murdered in this house, and no one knows who did it, but Addie thinks immediately it must have been her stalker. Gigi fell in love with her stalker, the very man who must have killed her eventually, and now I have one of my very own. The only silver lining is that I would never be so stupid as to fall in love with him. Doubt. You are stupid enough to do it, and this author is stupid enough to write it. The next diary entry is from about a month and a half after the stalker started stalking the grandmother. He kisses her. I'm just fed up of it. Also, his name's Ronaldo. We get that. The grandmother tries to justify cheating on her husband because reasons. Again, can we not? It's very Colleen Hoover. And then chapter 6 is back to the stalker's chapter, The Shadow. And in this chapter we find out that as well as a master hacker and torturer, he is also a perfectly skilled sniper who can take down 12 men like they're nothing. Woo! How hot and sexy is that? Don't we just love a cold-hearted murderer, ladies? No. Or at least I don't. We find out he is called Z, and he runs the organisation. Z. And then we get another info dump. I created an entire organisation built solely on ending human trafficking. I started out as a hacker, exposing the truths of our corrupt government. And then, as I became more aware of their true nature, the depravity of their sickness, it turned into personally snuffing out every single one of these sick bastards, starting from the bottom up. Terminate all the worker bees, and the queen is left vulnerable and weak. But I couldn't be both a hacker and a mercenary. And what I really enjoyed doing is being the one to put the bullet in their heads myself. So I created my org, Z, from the ground up, recruiting a team of hackers to help mercenaries with their jobs. Get into the rings, kill them all, and get the victims out safely. I can't keep doing that voice, I can't. Painful. I stationed my mercenaries in high-rate trafficking areas and assigned them their very own team of hackers. Now Z has become so big that there are teams in every state and several outside of the country as well. Now, I was doing a stupid voice there, but oh my god, you should hear the voice they use for the audiobook version of this. It is the cringiest thing I've ever heard. And people like take clips from it and use it as like audio for TikTok videos, and it's so bad. It's so damn cringy. I'm gonna try and put a clip in if I can, but I don't know if it's gonna get copyright claimed, but it's so funny. It's so funny.
I stalk her because I'm fucking addicted. I'm fascinated with every move she makes, every word that comes from her pretty pink mouth.
Back to the actual content. Don't get me wrong, I hate human trafficking as much as any sane person, right? And I would not be sad if the people responsible for it maybe ended up dead. But surely we can see that I really enjoy putting a bullet in their heads is a massive red flag for anyone to say, yeah? Can we just agree on that? Enjoying hurting and killing people, even bad people, is not normal or healthy, and I feel nothing but disgust for this character. Just because he does some good things in his life and stops some harm, that doesn't negate the other harmful things that he does, namely the stalking, rape, and violence against women. So, blah blah blah, he kills a bunch of men, rescues a bunch of kids, end of chapter. We are currently 14% of the way through the first book, and it is so damn boring. I am not even slightly invested in these characters or this story. And I think one of the things that really bothers me is this whole like human trafficking story, right? We're just told that creepy stalker man is just so capable, he's a master hacker, he's the best in his field at everything he does, and he's taking down all these bad guys, but there's never any stakes, because like, we know he's going to take them down and he's going to do it easily. It's just a matter of time before he gets to everyone. Like, there's no actual like real threat because we know he's going to do it because he's so damn great and perfect at everything, and he just does everything easily and never fails. So, yeah. In the next chapter, Addie goes out and gets drunk again. That's the third time in this book she's been off her face drunk already. And she meets some men at a bar, and immediately, like, everyone is so totally into her, including the one who calls her beautiful. Blah. And she replies to being called beautiful with, "Why, thank you," I respond sweetly. Social situations nearly send me into hibernation, but I've always been skilled at flirting. Too bad most times I can't stand to do it. Men have a unique way of killing my mood every time I come within 10 feet of them. We get it, you're not like the other girls. You hate men. She ends up in this weird VIP section of this bar with a bunch of creepy men who she says are super hot. And that's when she gets a creep from her creepy stalker, Z. The text is from an unknown number saying, "Sneaking off with random men, little mouse? If I catch his hands anywhere near you, they'll end up in your mailbox by morning." My heart stills in my chest. For the first time, he has actually communicated with me outside of an ominous note. My eyes snap up towards the balcony. No one can see us from here. We're too far back from the railing. But yet, someone is clearly watching me. But how? Obviously, she has major anxiety and genuinely believes if she does anything with any of these men, they're going to end up dead. It is horrible. But then she's like, yeah, screw it. I'll go home with one anyway. The next chapter is just a sex scene with some of the worst dialogue I've ever read, it's so bad, listen to this. And again, this is one of the few consensual sex scenes in the book. "F, baby, that's it. Let me hear you sing now." Long, husky moans are drawn from my throat, singing for him just the way he asked. "You sing so pretty," he whispers in my ears. A sharp nip follows his words. "Oh," I moan, my breathing erratic and breathless. My breathing erratic and breathless. "Do you sing pretty when you come, Addie?" he asks in a dark whisper. "Such a pretty bird," he murmurs. "You've left a mess on my hand, Addie. It'd be rude not to clean it up. You don't want to get your vagina eaten, or vulva rather, eaten under the stars?" he asks incredulously, looking at me as if I've grown a second head. It's so damn cringy and I hate it. Like, it's actually laughably bad, and the writing does not get any better. Anyway, so thankfully for us, they are interrupted by banging on her front door again, and random guy she's brought home, who's called, like, Archibald, but he says, "Call me Arch. I hate being called Archie," but then they call him Archie for the rest of the book anyway. He goes out to see who is outside, and Addie says, "The situation turns me on just as much as it terrifies me. I need to check myself into a mental hospital if I survive the night." Oh, shut up. No, it doesn't. It's genuinely scary. There's nothing to be turned... stop it. Oh, I wish you would check herself into a hospital and then the book ends there. That'd be a great happy ending. So she follows the guy outside, but her stalker has literally kidnapped him and cut off his foot and left it as a gift for her on her doorstep. This is insane behaviour. He kidnapped a stranger, cut off his foot and left it for her. So she calls the police, and when they arrive, they're like, well, he's probably dead, but it's not really a big deal because it turns out he was a criminal. The Talaveras, which is the family, are known criminals, policeman informs me. Nothing's been proven, never any sufficient evidence, but they deal in cocaine primarily. Allegedly, he tacks on at the end, side-eyeing me. What I can say is Archibald has been accused of domestic violence by his ex-wife several times, and he's gotten out of those charges unscathed, of course, but he's known to be a very violent man. I turn my head and cover my face with my hands. Sheriff Walters pats my back awkwardly, assuming I'm crying, but my eyes are as dry as the Sahara Desert, just like my vagina reading this book. And I'm too angry to cry, angry at myself for being so stupid and taking a random man home. Angry for getting that man killed, a man that is connected to a dangerous family. The policeman says, "I'll look into it, but Adeline, you must understand that if the Talaveras find out you have a stalker, they might place blame." I rear back, completely baffled that a cop is warning me that a criminal family could come after me, but he's never been one to sugarcoat or hide truths. Look at that! Victim blaming again. That's a theme in this book. In the Stalkers chapter, we get him justifying the murder again. The second I saw them together, it took all of my control to not storm into that club and drag her bum out of there. Because not only was another man trying to lay claim to my girl, but Archibald Talavera is an effing psychopath. A real one. Like you then. He beat his ex-wife to a bloody pulp on several occasions and made her life a living hell when she finally decided to divorce his bum. The woman is still in a psychiatric hospital receiving treatment for severe PTSD. He literally broke the woman, and while she spends her days trying to heal from his abuse, he spends his nights in clubs, picking out a different woman to take home and F. Last I heard, he's not a nice F either. His form of rough play isn't pleasurable by any means when the woman walks away with a bloody nose and busted lip. The bumhole deserves to die, and I'm happy to get the effing honour. So I'm not saying he's a good guy, but again, can we stop trying to justify literal torture and murder, please? Oh my god, the irony of this man, Z, complaining about another man being rough and mistreating women, the irony of that is not lost on me. Just you wait and see. But he has no regrets because can't have my little mouse thinking there aren't consequences for letting another man touch what's mine. She'll find out soon enough that I don't make idle threats. I hate this book. I hate this man. This is not sexy. Threats are not sexy. What follows is just several pages of him describing kidnapping, torturing and killing this man in graphic detail. And again, some of this writing is so damn bad it's laughable. He's been running his mouth since the moment he awoke, and it's been grinding my gears into dust. He throws out empty threats like bullets, but instead they're paper in the wind. None of them make an impact. In fact, they don't land anywhere near me. What was going to be a fairly slow death is now going to be the slowest death to ever happen since the dawn of humanity. He squirms like a worm on a hook, and I can tell by the panicked look on his face that he has that feeling. The sinking feeling that his life is balancing on the edge, and I'm about to effing Sparta kick him off. She got paid to write this. Anyway, in regards to Addie, he really does think a lot of himself. What he doesn't know is that the minute I properly introduce myself to Adeline Riley, she won't be able to think of anyone else. I will devour her from the inside out until every intake of breath will only stoke the inferno I've created inside her. Like oxygen feeding a fire, I will consume every inch of her sweet little body until she will think of nothing else but how to get me deeper inside of her. She'll fear me at first, but the fear will only ignite her, and I will be all too effing happy to deliver the pain when she gets too close to the flame. So 1, this isn't healthy or normal, and 2, do you have to swear so much? Like, normal people do not swear this often in their day-to-day life, right? It feels so unnatural, and again, it feels like it's written by a teenager trying to be edgy. Don't worry, I'll do some swear counts for you in a bit. I'll come back to that. So during the torture, they're really trying to set up soon-to-be-dead Archibald as a bad guy because he hurts women and says things like, "That doesn't matter," he snaps back. "She's the wife and I make the money. If I feel like buying a stripper for a night, that's my goddamn right. All she ever did was sit at home on her lazy bum and spend my money." I nod, accepting his answer for what it is. "Would you have hurt Addie?" I ask after a pregnant pause. He scoffs. I would have effed her how I like to F. If she ends up with a couple of bruises, so what? Bitches like that poop. They like it rough." And again, the hypocrisy and the irony is not lost on me. So Archie is a bad guy for thinking women like it rough and hurting them. But when Z does it later in the book, that's hot, apparently. Oh, but sorry. Apparently it's different because Archie wouldn't know how to have proper rough sex if he was giving an effing manual for it. He hurts women because he enjoys it. He doesn't know how to push women to the edge of pain and pleasure, balancing the two and making them desperate for more. He just hurts them, and by the time he's done, the girl is thoroughly bruised and traumatized, maybe even bleeding, and he's walking away with a satisfied smirk on his face, as if he was the first man to prove a woman orgasming isn't actually a myth. Wow. Again, it's not lost on me because creepy stalker man literally walks away from Addie later, leaving her bruised and bleeding and traumatized after raping her, but apparently it's somehow different. Sure. Okay, back to Addie's chapter, and her hacker friend Daya says, or has, hacked into Archer's known enemies' systems, their cameras, phones, laptops, and the GPS on their cars. Just like we suspected, they had no connection to Archer's disappearance. Sure she did, love. Sure. She also Dyer offers to set up security cameras around Addie's house, but not before Mr. Stalker sends Addie a box with Archie's severed hands in it. Lovely. What a catch. And of course he threatens her with a note saying, while I will enjoy punishing you for every time you call the police, let's hold off this time. Wouldn't want to have to hurt them next, little mouse. So, typical abuse tactic. Make them too scared to tell anyone or get help. It's disgusting. So, best friend Dyer disposes of the hands by going and like burying them in a forest somewhere rather than them calling the police. Like, that's a criminal act in itself. It's destroying evidence, but anyway, very stupid. The rest of Archer's family show up dead as well. We are 22% of the way into this book, and Z, our creepy stalker man, has already killed 20 people, not including all the people he killed before the book even started. So please tell me why women are writing reviews about this book and his character saying things like, 5 stars, reading this book is not enough, I need to F Zaid. That's his name, by the way, but we'll get there. She's also categorized this book in her own little category called A Tear Just Went Down My Leg. Anyway, back in the book world, Addie hears a noise upstairs and someone has taken one of her great-grandmother's journals out of a chest of drawers and left it open on the floor to one of the last entries that she wrote in it just before she was murdered. She was scared. She thought someone was after her. And Addie thinks it was the ghost of her great-grandmother who put it there. Yeah, and she says, there's no way this book could have ended up on the floor, yet it did. I don't know if it was Nana's doing or Gigi's, but someone wanted me to read these entries. Do they want me to find the person who killed Gigi? God, I can't imagine how difficult it would have been to solve a murder in the 40s with such underwhelming technology. Is her murderer even still alive? And this is so stupid, right? I know this is a book called Haunting Adeline, but there's been no evidence of anything supernatural existing so far in this book. And so now 20-something% of the way in, suddenly ghosts show up. And we're just taught to accept that this is a haunted house and there are ghosts in the house. And there's one other appearance of a ghost. And then they're relegated to like, oh yeah, the house is haunted and there are ghosts and these are real, but they have no impact on the plot. I don't get why it's in here. It makes no sense, and it's really stupid, and I was so confused. So because best friend Dyer is also a master hacker who can basically perform any magic trick as long as she has a computer in front of her, Addie casually asks her to hack into the police database and download the files about her great-grandmother's murder, and so of course she can do that, no problem. It'll just take 30 seconds. Boom, done. Here are your files. So they look at crime scene photos, but nothing is helpful, and then that night Mr. Stalker breaks into her house again, and she wakes up to the sound of footsteps in her hallway, but he doesn't enter her room. Instead, he leaves the house, and as she's watching him out of the window, it feels like an eternity passes, but I imagine it's only been seconds before I see movement. An audible cry leaves my lips when a large man saunters off the steps and walks out onto my driveway. He is wearing all black with a deep hood settled over his head. He's tall, very tall, but not bulky. Even beneath his clothing, I can tell his body is effing lethal. Lean but packed with muscle. His hoodie clings to his body, showing off his broad shoulders, thick arms, and trimmed waist. God, he could crush me if he wanted to. His hands look big enough to cover the entirety of my face or wrap around my neck. Would he do it to cause pain or pleasure? Does my shadow want to hurt me or love me? Like, why would you ask that? He's been stalking you. That's not normal. Stop it. Apparently he's been managing to avoid the security cameras too, because remember, he is a master hacker and he can totally do that. He's a master hacker. He comes back again a few nights later and she's going to call the police, but then he threatens her again, so of course she storms out of the house to confront him, which is insane behaviour. Crazy times. Growling under my breath, I storm to my door, unlock it and whip it open. He turns his head to face me and for a moment I almost develop a brain and run back inside. Stealing my spine, I angrily stomp down the steps and charge towards him. Hey bumhole, if you don't get off my property, I will call the cops. Why haven't you called them already? Why? Later I'll ask God why she made me this way, but right now all I can do is plant 2 of my hands on his chest and push when I get close enough. I don't allow myself to register the defined muscles under his hoodie because only psychos would focus on that right now. The behemoth of a man doesn't move back an inch. nor does he speak, or react, or do anything. Harsh, angry breaths huff from my nose like a bull as I glare at the hooded man. I can't see much of his face except the bottom half, but I can feel his eyes burning into me. Soon my body will smoulder until there's nothing left but ashes dancing in the cold wind. Sorry, I shouldn't laugh, but it's bad. What do you want from me, I hiss, curling my fingers into fists, only to abate the shaking. My whole body has begun to vibrate from anger and fear, but also from something else. Something so disturbing I refuse to put a name to it. He doesn't answer, but he does grin, a slow, sinful twist of his lips that sends sparks skittering down my spine. With deliberation, his tongue darts out and licks his bottom lip. My eyes zero in on the movement, the act primal, animalistic, and effing terrifying. And then he just walks away. Mate, I would literally move to another country if this was happening to me. Like, just get away from him. Stop this nonsense. Surely I wouldn't be so stupid to confront a psychopath. The very psychopath that cut off a man's hands and left them on my doorstep. But that's precisely what I did, and he did nothing in return except lick his lips at me like he plans to feast on me. Wait for this next line, this is so bad. Oh no! What if I have the second coming of Jeffrey Dahmer stalking me? It's so stupid. This was published. People have given this book 5 stars. Heart back in my throat, I turn and rush back inside, feeling like Lucifer's hounds are nipping at my bum cheeks. When I shut and lock the door behind me, I look back at the rocking chair I was sitting in to see the knife laying haphazardly on the floor next to the footstool. Oh, the poor writing is almost as offensive as the plot, let's be honest. God's sake. Oh, okay. Couple of days later, Stalker Man is back again. It's so boring and repetitive. Half of this should not have been in the book. Honestly, this book didn't need to be written at all, let's be real. My heart lobs around in my chest, pumping erratically. A low heat sparks in the pit of my stomach, my mouth drying as the burn descends between my thighs. I'm glued to the chair, panting from the heady mix of fear and arousal. My cheeks burn from shame, but the feeling doesn't dissipate. I should close the curtains, do myself a favour, and cut us both off from our silent war, but for some unknown reason I can't get myself to move, to pick up the phone to call the police, to do anything that would classify me as intelligent and having common sense. Can you just shut up? No one would feel arousal from being stalked. Like, it doesn't make sense. And she really starts doubling down on the ghosting at this point, right? Whatever ghosts haunt these walls are no longer relevant, not when there's something much more dangerous haunting the grounds. As if the ghosts hurt me, light footsteps sound from above me. I turn my head and lift my eyes to the ceiling, tracking the phantom footsteps until they fade away. So we really are just shoving the ghost thing in here, even though it is of no consequence in either book. Ghosts are real, and one lives in the attic, apparently. Next up, she has another book signing, and we finally learn why her chapters are titled The Manipulator, and it's stupid as hell. What do you call yourself? Dyer asks, quirking a brow at me. I sigh. A master manipulator. Why? I roll my eyes. Because I manipulate people's emotions with my words when they read my book, I grouse. Exactly. So that's all you do, except your mouth says the words instead of your fingers. Fake it till you make it, baby. This is so stupid. This is so stupid, I can't deal with it. I love my career as a professional manipulator. I'm fortunate to do what I do. I'm sorry, but no. I've never heard of an author call themselves a professional manipulator. I just think it's weird as hell, and it says a lot about the author writing this book, and it leaves me kind of concerned. And this is the only reference in the entire book to her being a manipulator. She says she manipulates people's feelings in her books, and that's why she is a manipulator. But we never see her, like, writing these books. We never see the reader's reactions to her books. We never see her actually manipulate anyone in real life. There's no manipulation that she does throughout this whole book. So I don't understand why it's in here. It makes no sense. Anyway, blah blah blah. Creepy stalker man has broken in again when she gets home, so Dyer calls the police for her, and then she goes to spend the night at Dyer's house, which is described as, this is so funny. Her house would be fairly empty if it weren't for the furniture and the thousands of computers everywhere. Yeah, my house would also be fairly empty if it wasn't for the furniture. So funny. Anyway, she takes her work seriously, and while she doesn't talk much about her job, I know she deals with some pretty heavy matters. She's mentioned before that she deals with the dark web and human trafficking, and that alone is enough to give someone night terrors. Apparently her boss is strict with keeping the details confidential, but there's been times where Daya has looked more haunted than Parsons Manor. So at this point I was like, oh, clearly she works for Zaid, doesn't she? And yes, she does. We all saw it coming, it's obvious. Anyway, Stalker Man Zaid has followed her to Daya's house and is watching her through the window there. This is getting ridiculous. Like, does he not have anything better to do? Like, get a hobby, learn to paint, join a choir. I don't know, just like find something better to do with your time, you know? Oh, and the Great Grandma's diary entries are also continuing in between the chapters, by the way. It's all, oh, we had sex. Oh, I really love him. Oh, I can't wait to see him again. My damn husband is boring in comparison. And that just repeats over and over and over again, not really adding anything to the story. Okay, I'm filming on a second day now, and if you're listening to the audio only, you might not be able to see, but I got my little co-host with me, my little Cooby Bear. She's sat next to me having a grumble, aren't you, babes? Yeah, bless her. The older she gets, the more like snorty and grumbly she gets with her breathing. You can't help it, can you, Baba? It's just who you are. I know, but you're such a good girl, aren't you? Can you believe she's 12 and a half now? I can't. Ugh. Okay, speaking of 12, we are moving on to chapter 12 next, and this is from the Stalker's perspective again. And I know I should probably call him like Zaid or Z or his name or something, but I like saying who he is, creepy Stalker Man. Isn't that right, Coops? Yeah. Sleepy girl? You tired? I love you. I love you. It's in this chapter we get an info dump about where he gets all his money from. Big corporations pay me an ungodly amount of money to hack into their rivals' systems for whatever BS reason, whether it be because they're competing and want to know what the other is cooking up, or because they have a lawsuit against another one and are trying to find information. I don't give an F what their problems are with each other, it's only my concern that they get what they hired me for. In the end, someone wealthy gets effed over and my clients make a massive profit from it, and I collect interest on it. It's dirty, and I've never been in the business of keeping my hands clean, and it allows me to dedicate my life to ending human trafficking. So apparently he's worth millions, which is very convenient, isn't it? And I'm really sorry, but can this book series please stop trying to sell me on the idea that this guy is a good guy because he wants to end human trafficking by, like, getting off on murdering people, and when he's a literal stalker who is harassing and raping a woman repeatedly at the same time. You can't just write off literal crimes because he's doing some other good stuff in his life. It's like, oh, well, yes, I got a 7-year-old child hooked on heroin, but it's okay because on the weekends I volunteer at a homeless shelter. Or, yes, I kick small puppies for fun, but I'm not a bad guy because on Wednesday evenings I litter pick for 3 hours. It just doesn't make sense, does it, Cuckoo? No. You agree with me, don't you? See, it doesn't work. Anyway, creepy Stalker Man is busy trying to track down groups of men performing satanic rituals involving drinking the blood of virgin children on camera because, yep, that's a common thing in this universe apparently. He brags about how he's killed hundreds of people at this point and how, in his words, he can't stomach people hurting women and children for their own sick pleasure. But he's fine with him inflicting suffering on a woman for his own sick pleasure. The hypocrisy I can't deal with it. And it only gets worse throughout the entire book series. Wait until the second book, right? There are men who are villainized for doing the exact same things to Addie as he does, and yet somehow it's different just because it's him doing it and he's hotter than the other guys. It's so offensive. Ugh. Anyway, this is where he tells us 2 of my employees installed security cameras throughout Addie's house, unknowingly to keep their boss out. I basically invented these systems, so I'm more than capable of disarming them with a click of my phone. Magic phones, magic technology, it's a big part of these books. In the beginning, I just picked her locks to get in and then reverse picked them after I left. The only predator I'll allow in her house is myself. Despite her poop locks, I'd never leave her vulnerable. I was relieved when she installed the security system, even if it was meant to keep me out. Breaking past those barriers is just another lesson to teach. Eventually she'll learn she can't shut me out any more than she can F other men. So there we go. That's pretty much proof that Daya works for him, except it's not confirmed until like 400 pages later, because this author likes to drag things out for the sake of it. Doesn't she? I'm really tired of this, like, I guess you could call it a trope in fiction, but this occurrence in fiction of a man being like, I'm going to hurt a woman to show her that other men could be dangerous, but then I'm going to save her from the danger that I inflicted her to show her how big and strong I am. It's like, if you're doing that, you are the danger. You know, it's like all these like manosphere creators who are like, women need men for protection. It's like, protection from who? From you. You can't just cause a problem and then be like, I'm the only one to solve it, you need us. Like, that's abuse, mate. Literally, that's abuse. He says, in the beginning I tried so hard to forget her. I tried to run, but I couldn't get her out of my mind. I went home from that bookstore and attempted to talk myself down, but it seemed the more I struggled to convince the beast inside me to leave her alone, the more it raged. And the second I started to look into her life, digging up anything I could find, the obsession only grew. She became an inoperable brain tumour that plagues every waking moment of my life. Sometimes it feels like if I tried to cut her out of me anyway, I wouldn't survive it. Good. Maybe you shouldn't survive. Just saying. In the next chapter, Addie starts seeing literal ghosts. Like, actual ghosts. They just shoehorned into this book for, like, no good reason. It's silly, isn't it? It's so silly. I don't understand why the author did this, okay? I'm walking down my dimly lit hallway towards my room when a flash of movement catches my eye. I freeze, my finger pressing the red button, when I see what looks like a woman disappearing through the attic door. A smile forms on my face before I can stop it. In all the years I've been in this house, I've only seen an apparition a few times. More often I've heard voices, footsteps, doors slam, and felt the freezing drafts, but rarely anything visual. But I know what I just saw. A woman in a white dress with tight blonde curls. I didn't see her face, but there's a distinct feeling that it was Gigi. Nearly dropping my phone, rushing after her, I run down the hall and swing the attic door open. It's pitch black leading up the stairs, and there's that nervous tickle in the back of my brain, but it doesn't stop me. And so I'm sorry, you've been seeing ghosts in this house like your entire life, but you didn't think to mention it before now. Ghosts are real in this universe, and you didn't think to confirm it until now. We are a quarter of the way through this book, and suddenly ghosts appear. Anyway, this is the one and only time a ghost has anything to do with the plot. We just suddenly learn ghost exists. She follows one into the attic, and then finds some hidden notes. One from a person saying they helped cover up her murder, and another from the grandmother's diary saying that someone was coming for her. It's not really all that interesting, but it's there. And this is the only thing a ghost ever does in this story that, like, moves the plot along. Other than this, there's just, like, casual mentions of, like, the ghosts are walking around tonight. This is a haunted house. But they don't do anything. There's no significance to the plot. So I don't understand why she put them in here, because there's no reason for them. There's no reason for ghosts to exist in this world. I thought we were going to have something where, like, I don't know, Addie gets attacked in the house and then one of the ghosts saves her by, like, dropping a bookcase on him or something. But no, none of that. The ghosts have literally no point. It's like they're built up and put in here for no reason. It's very frustrating. This book is just... So, blah, blah, blah. Zaid stalks her some more. Daya tries to track the phone number he's been texting her from, but she can't. Addie gets drunk again. Then Daya puts a special block on Addie's phone so he can't hack it anymore. But of course, he invented the software so he can hack it. Pointless page filler. There's some really weird stuff with Addie saying she loves Halloween and horror films and haunted houses because I just get off on being scared. I think that's a step up from being a psycho, but the therapist disagreed. I love it, which is why having a stalker is the worst thing in the world for someone like me. I'm susceptible to enjoying the fear a bit too much. My love for horror is going to get me killed one day. It's like I was meant to be hunted. Little Mouse. That name is going to haunt me. I'm not prey. I'm not. This book is so stupid. You know what I would like to read, though? A book from the perspective of Addie's therapist. Like, see what a sane person thinks of her. Oh, I'd read the hell out of that. So, creepy stalker man sends her some more creepy texts, and then she has to come and find him because he's hiding in her house somewhere. She starts looking for him, knife in hand, instead of calling the police, which is stupid as hell. And then she finds him standing in her bedroom with a knife in his hand too, and she tells him, "You wanted me to come find you, kitty cat, so I did. So take off your effing hood and show me your face," I demand, my voice rising alongside my anger. I can't deal with how bad this writing is. I really can't. I showed a couple of friends extracts from this book, and none of them could believe it was actually written by an adult. It was quite funny. So she sees his face properly for the first time and realizes that he is the guy from the bookshop, and she calls his appearance devastating. His right eye darker than the midnight sky, and the other the exact opposite. Was this written by Taylor Swift? His left eye is so bleached of colour it's nearly white. The scar starting from the middle of his forehead, slashing straight down through his white eye to the middle of his cheek, is something I haven't been able to forget since I saw him in the bookstore. Despite the ugly scar, it only serves to heighten his utter beauty. A jawline so sharp he could cut diamonds with it. A straight aristocratic nose, full lips, and short black hair just long enough to run your hands through. This is wrong. So wrong. I shouldn't be attracted to a stalker. No, you shouldn't. End of book. I wish. Like, I'm sorry, but I really hate this idea of he's so hot you can get away with anything nonsense, because that's what these books seem to spread. Like, look at this TikTok video I found and tell me this isn't incredibly concerning. If one of your friends was saying this, you would get her to go see a therapist immediately.
You're telling me that if this man right here, was following you around, peeking in your windows, leaving your thornless roses on your fucking counter, that you wouldn't let him in and, no, you're fucking lying. You're fucking lying. You would not be calling the cops on him. Okay, you'd be leaving your door unlocked.
She tries to stab him and he just grabs a knife, like, by the blade, so he's, like, cutting his own hand. I scowl and plant my hands in his chest, ignoring the pure steel beneath his flesh and attempt to push him away. But he resists the force, his lip curling into a snarl. Tears rim my lids as frustration grows. Please, just leave. I don't want you here. I don't want you. Just leave me alone. I beg. I feel like she's been pretty clear with what she wants there, right? There's no ambiguity. Let's just say that. It feels like reaching a hand inside my chest, yanking out my pride and throwing it onto the floor, but I don't give an F about my pride in this moment. I just want this man to effing leave. So there's a lot of scenes like this of her begging for him to go and leave her alone, and I actually found myself feeling really damn anxious while reading it, and I don't know how anyone can read about a woman being this distressed and not also feel anxious and come out of it still thinking the man causing these feelings is in any way attractive. I have a few reviews for you to read to contrast with what I was feeling. I feel dirty that I enjoyed this book. It was good. I feel even worse that I fall in love with Zaid. I realise how poorly that's written, but the sentiment is there. No shame in my game. I need him. I need Zaid. Biblically.
Is just amazing. Like, I can't explain the feeling. It was so freaking good. The spice of this book is something I've never experienced. It's a little messed up. I won't even lie. The first initial, like, really spicy sort of scene we get from this book is one of the most fucked up things I've ever read. But I was sitting there with my jaw just like unhinged, like, why is this, like, why am I attracted to this? I don't know, but it was so good, y'all.
I will just never understand these women, and it makes me feel like I am both concerned for them and also like I would never want to be in the same room with them because I wouldn't feel safe, you know? So he makes her play this messed up game of hide and seek and then chases her down, and it's horrible to read. This is just a straight up like terrorizing scene that accumulates in rape. It's horrifying and anxiety inducing, and yet it's written with the intention to sexually stimulate the reader. That bothers me. I like you scared, he whispers, sending shivers down my spine. I like you begging and pleading, crying out for God to save you. I feel the touch of his hand on my face and I flinch away. His fingers slightly trace over my cheekbones to my hair, tucking the loose strands behind my ears. I like you trembling beneath my touch uncontrollably. You're sick, I snap, doing just that. I'm shaking from head to toe and I can't seem to stop. And when he catches her, he immediately threatens to rape her, which results in Addie saying, It only infuriates me more that he finds my lack of consent is so inconsequential, so worthless. Let's just make that very clear. My lack of consent. She's laying it out for us. She is not consenting to any of this. So then he bites her, like physically bites her with his teeth all over her neck and body as punishment. And in response, she tries to get away by like biting him back on the face. And he responds by choking her. This is horrible to read, so please be warned. His hand wraps around my throat, pushing me back while he rips his face away. My head thumps against a wall, a dull throb radiating from the spot. He's squeezing tightly, but I don't care. I feel justified. If he kills me here and now, at least I can say I left one less mark on him. I've said it before in videos, but if a man escalates to choking you for any reason, especially as punishment, as it's labelled here, because they're angry with you, as he is here, because they want to hurt you, like whatever the reason, if a man chokes you, he is more likely to kill you at some point. That's just a statistical fact. I've got plenty of other videos talking about it if you want to check them out, but it really, really bothers me. So most of this scene is absolutely horrifying to read, but then like the seriousness of it all, not that the author's taken it seriously, she thinks it's just sexy little fun, you know, ooh, we love a good rape, don't we? All of that like seriousness is undercut by absolutely stupid lines like this. Before I can react, he's lifting me up and tossing me over his shoulder like a sack of potatoes. Effer, I snap, banging my fist against his back. I am not a potato. The next chapter is absolutely horrific because this is a whole chapter of a rape scene. And he says that the bruises he's left by biting her mark her as his, like she's an object for a possession, and he then proceeds to rape her with a gun, a loaded gun, as in the barrel of it goes inside her against her will. She literally cries the whole time. She begs him to stop. It is sickening to read. It is just a very, very graphic rape scene that takes place over several pages, but it's justified in the end by the author because, well, she got wet while he did it, and then she orgasms during the rape, so it can't have been real rape, can it? And again, this is something I've said before in plenty of videos. Plenty of people orgasm during rape. It's a physiological reaction. It is an involuntary response of the body. It does not mean that the person wanted it or that the rape is somehow justified or okay because that happened. Afterwards, she literally says, "My body is full of rage, humiliation, and shame. I know this, but it's like my brain can't process those emotions, so it's choosing to feel nothing at all. Is this what trauma does? Knowing you've been violated, but your body chooses to go numb instead?" Yes, that's exactly what trauma does. What we're reading here is a traumatized woman who readers are now seeing as like peak sexual fantasy. And I find that sickening.
Zaid, our MMC, is definitely unhinged, but he's also patient, protective, and genuinely wants Adeline to reclaim her power. I really loved this couple.
Okay, so for those of you listening to audio only at the minute, I am playing a series of TikTok videos with one woman saying I should not be feeling this way while she's actively like swooning over a caption saying the gun scene. There's another woman saying, "How psychotic can I be?" You enjoyed the gun scene in Haunting Adeline with her caption saying, "People found it traumatic in the book, but I was smiling when I read that part." And then finally there's one other woman who is like showing that she can't put down the book when you finally get to the gun scene. And then in the comments there's a woman saying, "Yep, my same reaction." Then I was like, why did I like that? Ha ha ha. And then the original poster says, right. Let's look at some other reviews. Zaid can stalk me any day. Literally one of my all-time favourite book series. I went into this not knowing what to expect and came out of it completely enchanted. This won't be for everyone due to the content/trigger warnings, but if you do pick up this book, I promise it'll be for the best. Well, now I want a stalker to fall in love with and have like 8 new possible kinks. Just goddamn great. So unhinged and yet so sexy. I'm definitely questioning all my morals. And I'm sorry, but if this is your response to reading even just one graphic rape scene, never mind the multiple that go on throughout this book, these are graphic, traumatic rape scenes where the victim says she's traumatized, she has a trauma response. Like, she literally says, "I am not consenting." She says no, she cries, she begs him to stop. If you read that and your response is, "So sexy, I want a stalker too, I want this to happen to me," then I'm sorry, but there is something wrong with you. You need some sort of therapy. This isn't kink shaming, this is me saying, I think you need therapy. Like, and you are not safe to be around other victims of rape, because it's like you'd likely just invalidate their experiences. Like, if you find this sexy, I don't feel safe around you, and I'm concerned about your mental health and well-being, you know? Addie drinks an entire cup of wine. Wine cures everything for a little while. Anger, trauma. But now, with a glass of wine absent, rage causes my hands to tremble with the reminder of how he left me on the floor, tossing a rose on me like discarded trash, and then leaving. I had never felt more debased as a human until that moment, never more humiliated. This is a traumatized woman. This is not sexy, this is not romance, and you can't convince me that it is. How can this rapist as a character be like, I'm a good person, I'm saving women from sex trafficking, which is why it's totally okay that I just raped a woman myself? I don't get it. In a complete tone shift, acting like nothing happened, Addie then goes back to looking into her great-grandmother's murder, and she thinks that her stalker-turned-lover was working for a mob boss in the 40s, so that's fun, whatever. Then Addie and Dyer go out for lunch, and the dead guy, Archibald, his friend called Max, I think it is, shows up, and it's like, I think I need to blame you for his murder, Addie. And it's just like, how much more like trauma and suffering does this author want to pile onto one woman? Actually, a lot more. Wait till we get to book 2. It's horrific. This is just not fun to read at all. In the next chapter, creepy stalker man watches her from her bedroom closet and says a bunch of really gross, objectifying stuff about her and her body. He claims he's in love with her, but he literally knows nothing about her or her personality or her values. So it's not love, it's just creepy, obsessive lust. And can we just please stop getting them confused? Again, I don't understand why lust is portrayed as love in these romance novels. Surely if you actually wanted to read romance, you'd want to read like an actual love story of people developing real feelings, and not just like all superficial lust. Because if it's just superficial lust, then you're just reading porn. It's not. Can we stop labeling it as romance? You know, I'm just. Anyway. Apparently, he says his plan is, I'm gonna make her fall in love with every single effed up part of me. I want this girl to see me at my most depraved. I want her to experience the true darkness residing in my soul. When you make someone fall in love with the darkest parts of you, there's nothing you can do that will scare them away. They will be forever yours. They will be yours forever because they already love all the effed up bits and pieces of you. And I have never heard anything more stupid or pathetic. Rapists really are insecure little brats, aren't they? So he leaves her house after, stalking her, because she's finally asleep now and he has nothing else to do, so I guess he should go and do some work. And he gets a work call from his employee Jay, who wants him to go and hang out with some corrupt politicians to see if he can find out any information. And Stalker Creep has the nerve to say to him, FJ, you want me to mingle with a bunch of rapists? I can hack into their cameras. Mate, you are a rapist. Don't pretend you're above them. Literally 10 pages ago, you were raping a woman yourself. Like, you don't get to be like, ugh, no, I don't hang around with rapists, when you are a rapist. In the next chapter, he sends her more creepy text messages, which she feels weirdly into, because apparently now they have some sort of weird, like, Stockholm Syndrome trauma bond thing going on. And then he threatens to, and I can't believe I'm saying these words because it makes me feel so uncomfortable. He threatens to bite her clitoris. The first time I read this, actively recoiled in disgust, and I can feel it happening again now. I just no. Reading sentences like that make me never want to leave the house again. I already have enough trouble with that. Anxiety is a pain. We then get yet another rape scene because I hate this book. We get another rape scene with a bit of torture mixed in too. Basically, he breaks into her house and he ties her up while she is sleeping. This includes taping her mouth. He ties her up to the headboard, tapes over her mouth, and then attacks and rapes her in her sleep. I mean, she wakes up, but horrible. Once again, it is very clear that she does not want to be in this situation. There is no ambiguity here. There is just zero consent. Let me go, I shout beneath the tape, but the words are muffled and indistinguishable. Panic sends my mind into a complete tailspin. I no longer think rationally. My body goes into survival mode, and I fight against his hold with all the strength I can muster. But it's useless. He's too big, too heavy, too effing imposing. I scream with frustration, attempting to buck him off. He laughs at my attempt, the rich sound of his amusement sending ice down my spine. Keep peeing me off, Addie. I do enjoy hurting you. It's music to my ears when I hear you cry. I struggle against him, muffled curse words spilling from my taped mouth. Again, I won't go into details and read out like the actual graphic rape, but it's in the pages. And afterwards she blames herself for it, saying, self-hatred wars against the hatred for him. I did this to myself, I know I did. I instigated him, pushed against him when he warned me what would happen. Which is just victim-blaming nonsense from the author. Of course, sometimes actual victims blame themselves, but it's absolutely not their fault, and yet the author wants us to believe that it is Addie's fault. She asked for this, and no one ever asked to be raped. This is followed by pages and pages of graphic rape that again made me feel so sick and anxious. These scenes are so dragged out and so long and so, like, they detail every single action of the rape. Every time she screams and says no and cries, every time he laughs at her for that, it's really, really uncomfortable to read. And the fact that the author wrote these with the intention of sexually arousing the reader is just something I find disgusting. I've always said I do think there is a place for, because I'm not saying, you know, no fictional character should ever be raped. We should never talk about rape in fiction. That's not what I'm saying. But intention matters. If you have a book where a character is raped and it's to show, hey, look, rape is terrible, these are the effects of it, this is how, like, people respond to it and react, and so on, then the intention there is to show rape is bad. If you write a graphic rape scene with the intention of sexually arousing your reader because you want them to find rape sexy, then that is incredibly problematic and something that I'm never going to stop calling out, you know? The intention matters. And not just the intention of the author, but like what they intend the response to be from the reader. Is it disgust or is it arousal? In this book, she writes it with the intent of arousal, and that's where the problem lies. I have sadly read a lot of rape scenes in books now while reviewing these terrible books for videos. I think the Harrow Fair ones were some of the first, and then the Penelope Douglas ones. Like, I've read a lot for these videos, but I do think these books, Haunting Adeline and Hunting Adeline, have the most disgusting and graphic and anxiety-inducing rape scenes of any abuse porn I have had the displeasure of reading. I actually think this author is quite sick. Again, the rape scene ends in orgasm, so the author tries to justify it as not real rape. And yet Addie says, I'll never recover, not when my soul has been ripped from my body and dragged down to hell. I feel so deeply that I found myself in the devil's lair, being feasted on from the dark god himself. The writing is bad, but I mean, like, this just proves she's pretty damn traumatized, right? Can we stop glamorizing that? Like, how did this get published? Who reads this drivel and takes it seriously? It's beyond me. And again, more victim blaming. Addie says, I let it effing happen again, with the gun and now this. Why do I keep letting it happen? He's forcing himself on me. We both know that. Again, that's not ambiguous. That just proves it's rape. You're reading rape and getting aroused by it. That's a problem. But, I mean, not you watching this, but the people who gave this book 5 stars and fell in love with Sade. That's what they're doing. But in the end, he had me wanting it just as much as he did. He had me nearly begging for it. Whether it was his gun effing me or his tongue, my legs fell open by the time it was over. And this is such a dangerous thing to write and put out into the world. It is perpetuating all the myths around rape that are actively harming thousands of women every single day and stopping them from getting any kind of justice, and it is sickening. Back to the diary entries, and great-grandma has had an argument with her drunk husband, well, several of them. He's accused her of having an affair, which she's denied, except she is having an affair, so she doesn't really have the moral high ground here. I really hate cheating plots, I do. But then it also turns out that he's been drinking more and has a gambling problem, and she fears he might hurt her one day, so that's not great. I hate domestic violence too. Back in Rapist Man's chapter, and he admits that he knows he is raping her. He admits this. So he is a self-admitted rapist, and women still lust after him. Please stop. Stop. I don't regret it. Not any more than when I stuck a gun in her C-word and made her come. I know how effed up that is, to take something without consent, spelling it out there again, to take something without consent. I know that's what I'm fighting against every day. She still hasn't given it to me yet, but she will. She still hasn't given him consent. He knows this. But she will, so you're going to coerce her into it. If you have to coerce her into giving consent, it's not real consent. He's admitting to rape, that's what this is. Her actions speak an entirely different language than her words. A language filled with desires and pleas, she just hasn't learned to translate it yet. Doesn't make it right, nor does it justify it, but I can't make myself regret tasting something so effing sweet, so effing perfect, even if she didn't want it, because that's what that was. And stop. This character is completely irredeemable, and because she's writing it, so is the author. Can we stop pretending that if the body involuntarily reacts one way, then it doesn't matter what someone's words are saying? Ooh, look at the body, not the word. No, that is a massive, really, really harmful myth around rape, and it needs to stop. If a person says no, they mean no. He then goes on to try and justify his stalking, saying, I stalk her because I'm effing addicted. I'm fascinated with every move she makes, every word that comes from her pretty pink mouth, and now I'm addicted to her scent, her taste, and the way she sounds when she's scared for her life, just as much as I'm addicted to the way she sounds when she's begging for more. It's not something I can explain. When I saw her, I effing nearly fell to my knees with need, and I will have her. But not because I'm psychotic and delusional, doubt. I'm not going to make a goddamn shrine of her and convince myself that we were destined to be together by the gods or whatever weird crap people believe these days. I'll have her because she's the first thing that made me feel something good in so long, and I've become obsessed with keeping it. I don't have very many something goods in my life, and I don't care if it makes me selfish for wanting to hold on to it. It's just pathetic, isn't it? It is selfish. You are psychotic and delusional. It's ridiculous. Just because you're miserable with your life, that doesn't mean you get to torture someone just so you can feel something. Your needs don't trump hers. The only way I'll be able to truly keep her is if she sees me at my worst. This is so stupid. I would rather just off myself than trick Addie into loving me as a good man, just to break both our hearts when she realises I'm not a good man at all. Or you could just try and be a decent person. If you're genuinely a bad man, and you are because you're a rapist, then you don't deserve someone's love and time and attention like this. You don't deserve the love of the woman you've repeatedly raped. It's that simple. Addie literally says to him, why can't you just be decent and not feel the need to stalk me? Because then I wouldn't be true to myself, little mouse. I love that I scare you. I love that you try to run from me. The push and pull, the cat and mouse game, I effing love it, and I think a part of you does too. This is not healthy or normal or fun to read at all. It's pathetic. He ends the chapter by bragging that he's been deleting the records of her filing police reports against him, and says that he's using the system to his advantage because not that stalking cases are ever taken seriously anyways, which is why so many women end up murdered. I hate that he just casually throws this in here, because this is such a huge problem, as I said earlier. In the UK, 1 in 5 women over the age of 16 have experienced stalking, although it's actually estimated to be so much higher because so much of it goes unreported. The number of women who die at the hands of their stalkers because the police don't take it seriously, or at least are hurt at the hands of their stalkers, or terrorised or traumatised because the police don't take it seriously, is so scarily high. And this book acknowledges that, and then is like, yeah, but I'm going to use this to our advantage and make it hot and sexy. Can we please stop glamorizing other people's real life trauma? I don't know why that's so controversial. It's so distasteful to use this fact that puts millions of women in real danger to romanticize his crimes. And I know I always get comments when I moan about these abuse porn books. That, oh, well, the people reading it know the difference between fiction and reality, and it's not real, so it doesn't affect people. Except, as I said in the introduction, we know for a fact that reading fiction can influence our view of the world and how people see and treat each other, you know? We know that it can help us understand people's experiences and feel more empathetic towards people and so on, so why would we assume that it can't do the opposite too, and make us less empathetic towards people and their suffering if they're constantly reading this stuff which normalizes and excuses abuse? And when I read the reviews, some of them make me genuinely concerned for people, you know? God, it's me. Can we please manifest my own Zade Meadows? I knew this book was going to ruin me, especially my love life, and make me question my morals. Jesus effing Christ. I just love how romance novels keep getting progressively disturbing and we keep progressively obsessing over it. Do I or do I not want a stalker is the question now. Zaid Meadows. In real life, we'd all probably call the cops on him and get the ick so quickly it's not even funny. In this book though, yes. He's the typical case of a character not just being good or bad, white or black, but having depth and a whole personality. Red flags? Absolutely. Toxic? Definitely. Psychotic? An effing 100%. I saw a TikTok once stating that if a guy like him came up in real life, he wouldn't be so successful with his love life because realistically no girl wants a guy like that, but as a book boyfriend, he's worth every second of fantasizing. I actually tested that theory. During my reading, I imagined the alarming toxic red flag scenes happening to me in real life and being completely honest with myself, asking myself how I would react in that situation. Would I let that slide or would I get the ick? The key is to being really honest with yourself whether you'd like behaviour like that in reality. 99% of the Haunting Adeline fans wouldn't want a Zaid Meadows in reality. I researched those opinions on Reddit, Quotev, TikTok, anywhere. As for me, let's put it this way. Something is definitely wrong with me. Yeah. So she's saying she does want a rapist stalker in real life. Who knew I had a thing for possessive men with two coloured eyes? What does that say about me? Honestly, that I have good taste, especially if that man is Zaid. Lord have mercy, was this good. This had my heart racing. I devoured this like no one's business. So good. I'm so jealous of Adeline. I want to have a man like Zaid. Literally exactly him. He's so beautiful inside and out. And the way he brings things out in Addie that she's never knew she needed before just had me melting. You cannot convince me that these responses are healthy and normal and that these people aren't being affected in some way by reading this harmful nonsense. And we have other examples too. One of the things I found after I'd actually written this script is that at a dark romance book convention, at an event for HD Carlton, this woman, she had one of her friends come along who is apparently a male musician, and he was sexually assaulted by a number of women who were fans of HD Carlton and read this stuff. And you had people being like, oh, see, these people are ruining the dark romance community. We're not all like this. And I'm like, but surely you can see that it's having this effect on some people. Surely you can see that it is causing harm. Like, I don't care that it's not all, because it could be any. You know,
This is despicable. This happened at Sinners and Stardust over the weekend, and H.G. Carlton posted this on her Instagram story, and it's absolutely wild. It crosses every possible boundary of respect and consent, and the fact that those are adults makes this even crazier. And as if the BookTok community is not getting already enough backlash as is, especially the spicy BookTok dark romance community.
Weirdos like this are why dark romance readers will never be able to just live in peace. The main argument that we consistently use as to why dark romance isn't hurting anyone is that we can separate fiction and reality. That is the whole point of dark romance. When there are people from our space that go out and actively contradict that by partaking in behaviour like this, the whole genre is reflected negatively. These people are so desperate for a YN moment that they're committing crimes and actually hurting real people. Not even just dark romance readers that are affected by things like this, because romance readers in general are then all lumped into this group of people that don't understand respect. Look at the hockey guy drama that was happening not long ago. Like, this is just a repeated offence that keeps happening in the bookish space only. I just hope that this man is okay and he can heal from this and these weirdos that like physically assaulted him, but then also that people can understand that this is a small minority of people and that we don't all behave or feel this way about real people, and that we can separate fiction and reality, and that is the point of reading.
So many people tell me that I just need to lighten up and stop taking this so seriously when it's just fiction, but I can't, you know? I think when you do the kind of work that I do, and you're constantly advocating for actual victims of rape and reading their accounts of what happened, and you've had some personal experiences that I've had too, it's impossible to just switch off your brain and pretend that this is mindless entertainment, because it's not. So Roxanne Gray edited a collection of essays called Not That Bad, Dispatches from Rape Culture, And when you've read some of the essays in there by some of those women who have been raped and assaulted, you hear them expressing so many of the same sentiments that fictional Addie expressed in this book. And it's impossible to, read those essays and feel so much empathy and pain for them. And you feel the anxiety that they felt. And then you read the exact same things in a fiction setting and you're supposed to be sexually aroused by it. I'm like, I'm sorry, but these are the same words on the page. I can't have different reactions. They both make me feel anxiety and disgust and sorrow, So in one of the essays in that book, Vanessa Mattia, for example, wrote, "I didn't want him to touch me, but he still did. I told myself it wasn't rape because we were in a relationship. It wasn't rape because I still loved him. It wasn't rape because I didn't fight him off. It wasn't rape because I stayed with him after. It didn't matter that I kept whispering no, no, no. It didn't matter that I sobbed the entire time." In another essay in that collection, Stacey May Fowles writes, "I said the word no 16 times. I don't know that I truly remember exactly how many times I said no, especially given the circumstances. The passage of time blots out any kind of vivid detail memory, and the world fills you with doubt of the legitimacy of your own story. But for whatever reason, that's the number I repeat in my head. It's the number I used when I finally started talking about what happened to me. It's the number that I could told counsellors and psychiatrists and whispered to close friends in quiet, covert moments. What I remember? I was face down when he pinned down my wrists, one at each side of my body. His hands were strong and large and rough, but they were, before the moment that he held me down, hands that I wanted to touch me. I started to panic. He was too heavy, having at least 50 pounds on me. I couldn't breathe. No became a meaningless word while I was under him. It evolved into a plea or prayer instead of an instruction as intended. And then, in all the futility, it was nothing but a cry. A feral squeal with no one to witness it. In the dark, there was no one to call out to, no one to help me, but I cried the word nonetheless, just as I'd been taught to. These accounts are horrifying to read, as they should be, and I don't understand how people can basically read the same events, the same words, the same responses, and be like, well, I can masturbate to this one, but I'm shocked by this one. Like, just because one is fiction and one is real life, I don't understand why your reactions are so different, The acts you picture when you read these accounts are the same. Surely the empathy you should feel for the narrator, whether real or fictional, is the same, isn't it? I don't understand how you can just turn your brain off and be like, well, I'm going to find it hot in this situation, and I don't get it. Because even if the accounts in Haunting Adeline are fictional, there are still thousands, millions of women out there who this has happened to, that it isn't fiction for them, And I just feel like when you have that knowledge and you read this account, even if this one is fictional, it's not fictional in other cases. So when you read those words, I don't understand how you can possibly find it enjoyable or sexy. It just doesn't make sense to me. In that same book, edited by Roxane Gay, Gabriel Union writes, "Rape is a wound that throbs long after it heals, and for some of us, the throbbing gets too loud. Post-traumatic stress syndrome is very real and chips away at the soul and sanity of so many of us who have survived sexual assault. My compassion for victims of sexual assault is something that I cannot control. It spills out of me like an instinct rather than a choice. It pushes me to speak when I want to run away from the platform. When I'm scared, confused, ashamed, I remember this part of myself and must reach out to anyone who will listen, other survivors, or even potential perpetrators." And I think this sums up kind of how I feel. I can't just not have compassion for a victim of rape. I can't not feel angry at a rapist, even if they are fictional, because this happens so often in the real world and it destroys lives. It is not just harmless fun. There was one video I saw, I think it's part of a YouTube review, where a woman said that she really enjoyed these books and she recognised that it's probably because she was from a place, like a position of privilege, where, careful Angel. She said it was probably because she was from a position of privilege where she'd never experienced these things herself, and so that allowed her to enjoy them. And I'm like, I just feel like even if you've, on the one hand, I commend her for recognising that and recognising that privilege, but on the other, that doesn't mean that it's okay that you're sexually aroused by this stuff. I feel like if you can recognise, oh, I've never experienced this, so I can't relate, then maybe go and speak to actual victims. Maybe go listen to them. Listen to survivors' stories and accounts and the things that they went through and have some empathy for them and make sure that you understand where they're coming from. Because I feel like anyone who's actually listened to a real victim isn't gonna get aroused at the thought of that rape. You know what I mean?
I have gotten to a place where I am legitimately like scared, nervous to bring up, show, or talk about a certain series that I liked, I enjoyed, and I don't feel bad about it. And I have just like kind of stopped talking about it on this and other platforms because of the backlash that I get for talking about it. And I feel like that's not fair. I feel kind of like upset by it because I should be able to say and like what I like, especially when it comes to a fictional story. I am going to tell you what it is, obviously. I read, I enjoyed, would read again, would tell my friends to read Haunting and Hunting Adeline. And I don't understand every single time I talk about it. I even will like now when I bring it up in my videos, when I show it, I'll like have a little disclaimer like, please leave me alone, let me talk about it, and they will still come for me. The level of upset people are that I like this book and like getting personally mad at me as a person is a little wild to me. I don't understand. Sure, I'm probably a level of privileged because that subject matter does not trigger me. Why is that wrong? I don't understand why the people that it is for are like shamed about it. The general consensus that I get is I'm not allowed to like it and I'm a bad person for liking it. And I think that that's dumb. I don't like that.
For all I often say, things like context and intent matter, because of course they do. I just think when you look at certain content and it's exactly the same, I'm not sure how you can necessarily separate it. Like, if I read you 10 passages now, and half were from real life accounts of rapes, and half were from dark romance novels, abuse porn, and the content was exactly the same between them, because they are, like, how would you know which ones to be aroused by and which ones to be disgusted by? The average person wouldn't. I think you'd be disgusted by all of them. So that's what I mean. That's what I can't turn off. Just because you're telling me you're aroused by this doesn't mean I can stop being disgusted by it, you know? Also, sorry, Kubi's a little bit grumbly today, aren't you, babe? Do you want a tummy rub? Okay, right, sorry, that was a rant. That was quite a rant. Let's get back to this book, because we are only 44% of the way through the first book. This book did not need to be nearly 600 pages long. So much of it is just repetitive and gross, and we have a whole second book to get through as well. The next chapter, Stalker Man goes and threatens Max, the friend of Archie, the guy he killed, because he's been questioning Addie and Dyer. Cool. Pages of boring penis measuring between unbearable men. Blech, let's move on. Then he goes to this members club to stalk the child-killing politicians, you know, the ones who did the cult sacrifice thing. And this is no ordinary members club. This is a members club that exists purely to abuse women. Women in scantily clad clothing roam the room, delivering drinks and pretending to laugh at their lame jokes. And what the F? 10 feet from me, a woman stands at a poker bar holding out her bare arm while a bumhole stubs out his very lit cigar on her skin. My face drops when I see that bumhole is Mark effing Seinberg. God damn it. Smoke sizzles from her flesh, but she doesn't move an inch. In fact, she doesn't even flinch. As I get closer, I notice she has a blank look on her face, much like the hostess that greeted me. The smell of burnt flesh fills the area. One penis head even waves his hand in front of his nose dramatically, as if it's her fault it smells. She drops her arm and just stands there, a glazed look in her eye. After closer inspection, I notice that the entirety of her arm is covered in burn scars, old and fresh, all in different stages of healing, and plenty of fresh burns from tonight. Mark shoos her away and she robotically turns and walks off, as if she didn't just have a cigar stubbed out on her flesh. She's drugged. After I look around at the women, I realise they all are. Not only does it keep them compliant, but they probably won't remember the majority of the poop that goes down in here. I honestly think, based on scenes like this and the second book, this author just gets off writing about the abuse of women in general, and I find that gross as hell. It just feels unnecessary. There's a whole bunch of bragging about Zaid is this master poker player too, apparently. So apparently he is a master at everything. He is a master hacker, a master sniper, master murderer, master rapist. Now he's a master poker player. Like, is there anything he can't do? Oh, I'm fed up. Actually, no, one thing he can't do is apparently stop himself raping women, so there's that. Oh, there's so much nonsense in this chapter too, right? I slip out the Bluetooth earpiece I had hidden deep in my inner suit pocket. All of my jackets have a special lead lining in them that deflects radiation, meaning I can walk through any body scanner without the devices being detected. For someone who gets shot at a lot, this seems dangerous, right? That's like lead poisoning waiting to happen, right? Am I wrong? Anyway. He decides to rescue one single woman out of tens at this club, and he's like, oh, I'm such a hero, despite the fact he's just leaving all the others there, but yeah, whatever. There's another diary entry, and the great-grandmother's husband is still drunk all the time, starts being abusive, smashing things up, shouting at her a lot. We're meant to think he's the big bad villain now. The next chapter is back to Addie, and she's talking with Daya about creepy stalker man. I don't even know his name, I groan, my voice muffled by my hands. They've been glued to my face ever since Daya got here, and I confess tea broke in again. I haven't gotten around to what happened yet. There's not an ounce of courage in my bones. She's been patiently waiting, knowing that I'm holding something back, something terrible and shameful, and something I can't stop effing thinking about. You effed him, didn't you? She asked calmly. My eyes bulge, and I unglue my hands from my face so I can pin her with a glare. No, I did not eff him, I snarl, as if she's suggesting something insane, and I didn't come really damn close to it. I can feel the blood riding in my cheeks, and my left eye twitches. Daya knows that's my tell. You did, she bursts, standing up from her chair and looking down at me with shock. I didn't, I promise, I rush out, grabbing her hand. But something did happen. Bitch, what the F, she shouts. She leans in closer, an unreadable emotion flaring her eyes. Was it consensual? And this is where I get tripped up, because it wasn't. But had he kept going, had he stripped his clothes from his body and effed me, I can't say with absolute certainty I would have stopped him, or that I would have wanted to. See, it wasn't consensual. So it's rape. There it is. If I was Daya, I'd be encouraging my friend to go to the police, get a rape kit done, see a therapist, do whatever she needed, right? But no, not in this stupid book. I put my hands on hers. Daya, well, it wasn't consensual at first. I say the last part like a question. Embarrassed that I'm even admitting something like that. She blinks. At first, she echoes, meaning what? He was that good he changed your mind? My hands cover my face, but she forces them away, nearly bumping her nose into mine as she intently waits for an answer. You have such pretty eyes, I tell her. She snarls. Spill, slut. Can we not? I close my eyes with a resigned sigh. That man ate the soul out of my body, and I don't think I've gotten it back yet. Like, I'm sorry, but your friend just told you she was raped, and your response is to call her a slut. Can we just not, please? I groan. Daya, I don't know what to do. He didn't hurt me, but he did. He definitely forced himself on me, but I would have let him go further if he'd tried. I'm so effing confused, and I feel dirty and wrong, but when it was happening, it felt... I trail off with another groan. This time, I just bang my head against the granite countertop. Really good, she fills in. Amazing, out of this world. All of the above, I confess. I've never come so hard in my life. And I'll keep saying it. Orgasms don't stop something being rape, and I'm absolutely sick of books pretending that it does. This whole interaction is so anger-inducing to read. Are you angry, Q? Yes, but also a little happy at ear scratches, right? The conversation ends abruptly with, I sit up and bring Gigi's journal back towards me. Anywho, let's focus on finding out what happened to my great-grandmother. I hate this book. Absolutely hate it. Okay, I had some lunch. Where were we? Right. The grandmother's notebooks, and no, not the grandmother's notebooks. The great-grandmother's murder investigation. Addie is thinking it must be the stalker who killed her, even though, like, none of the evidence actually points to that. And then Daya says, Addie, I love you, and I'm going to say this with all my love, but don't project. I'm starting to get the feeling that you want Ronaldo to be the killer, because in your head, that will criminalize your stalker too. Please tell me that's not why you're seeking justice for Gigi, because you're looking for a reason to hate your stalker, when in actuality you don't. I'm sorry, but what the hell? Like, she doesn't need an excuse or a reason to criminalize it. He's already a criminal. He's already a rapist. I can't deal with this nonsense. I don't know how many more times I can say it. Every time I don't think this book series can get worse, it does. Anyway, Daya found a photo of the guy who could be Ronaldo, the great-grandmother's stalker. And Addie gets drunk again, and she definitely has some sort of drinking problem, let's be honest. It's not taken seriously in this book series at all, but the amount she gets drunk in such a short space of time is just very, very odd. Again, it's kind of written, the whole relationship with alcohol in this book is written like a teenager's writing it who's never had a drink before, but they think alcohol makes you cool, and you get really drunk every time, and it's weird. I'm drunk. I ended up drinking 2 more margaritas, and Daya had the bright idea to take more tequila shots. My world spins as I stumble up the stairs, a giggling Daya on my heels. We're both on all fours, our hands planted on the dirty wooden floors so we don't fall. Bitch, why did you make me drink this much? I asked, giggling harder, when I almost toppled sideways. I felt it was appropriate while we're investigating a murder, she stutters, her voice wobbly and filled with giggles. I really don't care. Anyway, while she's drunk and completely out of it, Mr. Stalker Man shows up and is aggressive again, for God knows what reason. I squeak when I see his hand flying towards my face from my peripheral. The alcohol has sucked away all reflexes, so when his hand grabs my hair roughly, I can do nothing to stop it. This is assault, and it's even worse that he's doing it while she's incapacitated because she's drunk and vulnerable. This man. We learn his name is Zaid, and he's so pathetic in the process. That's the only name that will ever leave your lips from now on, especially when you're making that little P word feel good. And when I'm making that P word feel good, then you can call me God. He says he won't assault her tonight, but only because she might puke on him, not because she's clearly so drunk she would be unable to consent at all, and, because assault is bad. He doesn't care about that, he just doesn't want to get puke on him. You gonna assault me again? Is it gonna be you forcing your penis in my mouth this time? I spit at him, narrowing my eyes in thin, hateful slits. I thought about it, he admits in a contemplative murmur. I would love to see you swallow my penis tonight. There's a but, and in my drunken state, I'm almost offended. I quirk a brow, but even I know that it doesn't have the same effect as him doing it. But you're still inebriated, and you'd vomit all over my penis the second it touched the back of your throat. Okay, now I'm really offended. My mouth pops open in shock. I would not, you bumhole. I scrum away from him, but he reinforces his hold in my hair and keeps me still. Always effing forcing me. I'm not really into super vulgar language like this. I just don't really like it. It feels cringy to me. But I know that's just a personal preference. It's the content of what he's saying that's objectively horrifying, but how it's all being said as well is just not very pleasant to my ears. The constant swearing is a bit ridiculous. I did search up how many swear words are in this book at various times. In the first book alone, so that is about 580 pages, there are 611 instances of F words and variations of F words, which is more than one per page. It feels unnecessary. There are 124 S words, 8 C words, and 36 bitches. I just feel like when you have to include that much swearing in your novel, it is a sign that you are a poor writer who doesn't know how to express yourself properly. And then, regardless of what he said, he assaults her anyway. Again, I'm not going to read out this scene because it is disturbing, but once again, it involves him physically forcing her, grabbing her, pushing her around, hurting her repeatedly saying no, and realizing at one point, this man could easily kill me. It's just horrifying to read. It's yet another completely graphic, violent rape scene that is played for thrills. Like I say, I've never felt so sick or anxious while reading one of these books before, and it's horrifying. And I'm going to come back to talk about trigger warnings here again, because I knew going into this that it was going to be bad, because, that's why so many people requested a review in the first place, right? So at least I was a little prepared when I went in. But imagine if you didn't know what this book was about at all, and all you had was that silly little warning at the front being like, oh, it contains, dubious consent. It didn't even say dubious consent, did it? It said consensual non-consent. The one in the copy that I had just straight up said CNC, which is not what this is. Imagine if that's all you've got and you prepare yourself for some role-playing scenes or whatever, and instead you're hit with pages upon pages, hundreds of pages in total of graphic violent rape. I think the least the author could do is be honest about what she's writing about and label it as rape, which it is, so the audience is actually prepared. Now, the Amazon listing for this book does not contain any content warnings, but it does say go to the author's website to see content warnings. So I did, and I admit the list on there was longer than the list in the actual book. and it lists things like explicit sexual situations, mentions of child death, human trafficking, graphic violence, child sacrifice, and stalking. But this still isn't enough, because where is the mention of graphic rape scenes? Graphic violence is likely in reference to all the torture and shooty scenes and so on, but that doesn't warn you that you're going to spend half the book watching a woman be repeatedly violently raped over and over again, and have that rape excused and glorified over and over again. I just feel as content warnings go, this is not enough. And the thing is, she's willing to label rape as rape at times, because the trigger warnings for the second book in the series, which we will get to, include sexual assault, graphic rape, human trafficking, slave trade, graphic violence, grooming, physical and mental abuse, severe PTSD, kidnapping, psychological abuse, and explicit sexual situations. So she can warn people that there's rape in the second book, but she refuses to warn people that there's rape in the first book. And the reason for that is because of the person doing the raping. When it's Zaid doing the raping, she won't warn people of it, and she tries to condone it and excuse it. When it's other men doing the raping, then she's like, oh, I better warn the reader just in case. I have a real problem with that. But back to Haunting Adeline, let's talk about this some more. We are finally halfway through the first book, and Great-Grandma is worried because both John, her husband, and Ronaldo, her stalker-turned-lover, have anger issues. And she's like, oh, I don't know who to stay with. They're both angry and violent and terrible people, but I love them both, so I have to pick one. And can we just normalize walking away from angry men, please? Like, don't feel like you have to pick one or the other. Just leave. It's not that hard. Well, it is that hard, but you know what I mean? Like, it's not that hard to just portray something healthy in a book, like people getting out of abusive relationships, you know? In the next chapter, creepy stalker rapist Zaid is spying on Addie at some bar when one of the creepy cult politicians, Mark, bumps into him and is like, let's go for a drink. And they happen to go to the same bar that Addie is at. And Mark, the child murdering politician, gets drunk and is all like, ooh, look at her. And then Zaid, who is posing as Zach, is like, no, you can't have her, she's mine. And then Mark is like, cool, I'll go say hi. And then when Mark goes to the bathroom, Zaid is like, if you've never taken me seriously before, then do it now, Adeline. Her eyes widen at the severity of my tone. You're gonna sit there like a good little girl and play along until I convince Mark to leave. Then and only then you can pack up your poop and go home. Do you understand? So she stays, and in a super convenient twist of events, it turns out that Mark's father, father or grandfather, I can't remember which one, was Frank, who was Addie's great-grandfather's best friend until he thought he was the one who murdered his wife. Apparently, after Gigi was murdered, Frank stopped talking to John and told everyone that it's because he thought John murdered Gigi. But in reality, I'm like, well, if you're trying to set up this murder mystery of like, has John murdered her or has Ronaldo murdered her, and then you're constantly throwing Frank randomly into these diary entries, and now you're introducing his son or grandson, I'm like, well, clearly Frank did the murdering, right? It was him. The other two are like a red herring. Anyway, it's very convenient that he knows her and there's like a whole thing. And so there's this horrible, horrible scene, which is so unnecessary and inappropriate, where after Mark leaves, Zaid walks Addie back to her car and then gropes her in public, and they start going at it in public, but they only stop because a literal child sees them going at it in public and says, Mummy, are they having sex? The loud voice of a little girl breaks the shroud of lust. Addie jerks violently and scrambles back, bumping into her car to get away from me. Penny, get in the car, the mother snaps from somewhere behind me. Addie's rounded eyes drift over my shoulder, and whatever she sees has her face reddening to a concerning colour. She's panting heavily and flushed from both embarrassment and desire. I turn my head to the side, glimpsing over my shoulder to see a blonde woman ushering her small child into the car. Her own face is red. She catches me looking and shoots me a scornful glare. I just smirk and turn back to my trembling little mouse. This was so unnecessary. Why did the author have to include a scene of a child watching a sex scene? Why? You didn't need to do this. The next chapter is back to Addie and Dyer. And Daya is suddenly like, wait, is your stalker Z? Is he the man who, like, does this and this and this because I work for him? And then it's like, oh my god, I don't know, I don't think so, maybe he could be, who knows? Yes it is. We all saw this coming. Oh my god, that was the other thing. Mark was like to Addie, if you want to find out more about your grandmother, then you have to come to this party I'm hosting. And Addie's like, oh, well, I guess I have to. And Zadie's like, no, he's a dangerous man. And she's like, yeah, but my grandmother. So she goes to this party, and Zaid comes to pick her up because now they're posing as like Zach and Addie who are dating. And it's several excruciating chapters before they actually get to this party. It's just all so drawn out and pointless, and it really, really bothers me. This book is so much longer than it has to be, and it's all like blah blah blah, Zaid looks hot, blah blah blah, she decides she wants to have sex with him, oh no, she's scared of him, but he's hot, and he's like, you can't ever say no to me, and she's like, oh my god, he's evil, but oh, he is kind of hot, and blah 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 blah. Shut up. Same old nonsense that we've read in the last 300 pages, and it just keeps going. To make matters worse, out of nowhere, he decides to just choke her with his belt in the car because he wants to do some power play, and I'm like, this is literally how people die, can we not? And Addie says he's evil. I dangle the belt between us like I'm holding a dead snake. With the grin still on his smug face, he grabs it from me and lets my throat go. Just as I suck in a deep breath, he's wrapping the belt around my neck, looping it through the buckle and pulling it tight. My eyes bulge like a fish, the metal biting into my skin as the belt constricts. This is not hot, this is not romance, this is how she's gonna die someday. And it could very easily be this day if he's not careful. He then orally rapes her with his belt around her neck while she cries. It is another pages-long graphic rape scene. It's gross. And just as he finishes, Addie says, I can't breathe, can hardly think anymore. My lungs are deprived of oxygen, and just when I think I'm going to black out, he jerks himself out with another grunt, releasing the belt as he does. I suck in a deep breath, coughing and hacking as I try to regain everything I lost. Air, morals, even some of my hair. But I didn't lose my damn dignity, not when I took control of that situation. That was on my terms, not his. And like, I'm sorry, but did we read the same passage? Where did you take control? When? How? Because what I saw was you nearly dying because he had his belt around your throat and was forcing you while he orally raped you and you cried. Where is that you being in control at all? Like, sorry, but what is wrong with this author? And then they go to the party, and I'm supposed to believe that somehow she doesn't have red marks and bruising around her neck. She just doesn't. You nearly died, but you don't have bruising, apparently. Anyway. The other thing is, like, I don't think people realize how dangerous strangulation and choking is. Like, it can cause so much internal trauma that even when you can't see there's any damage, it can be very, very common for a person to die from it, because it can cause internal damage which can lead to a person having a stroke anywhere from between like an hour to a couple of days after the strangulation has occurred. One source says only 50% of people who are strangled will have any injury to the neck or head that can be seen. If a person does have injuries, it tends to be bruising or scratches to their neck. Some victims might have pinprick bruises on their head, face, eyes, or neck. Other injuries might be seen if the attack included things such as punches, slapping, or hair pulling. This one did. Lack of injury does not mean that, as in lack of visible injury, does not mean that the attack was less serious or less dangerous, or that it will be easy to get over psychologically. People have been killed by strangulation without there being any visible injury. Some dangerous injuries can be internal, such as damage to the blood vessels in the neck. This can lead to strokes in the days, weeks, or even months after strangulation. If you want to find out more about that, or if you've been in that situation yourself, then there is a document linked below in my source list for you to check it out and get some information, and also find resources that can help you. Bearing in mind that this is a book that glamorizes nearly killing a woman, you should also know that this is a book which has 359,622 5-star reviews on Goodreads. That is almost 360,000 people who have no problem seeing a woman be choked to death almost and repeatedly raped. 360,000 people who I would not feel safe being around. And I looked at the profiles of a lot of these people who've left 5-star reviews, and I admit, obviously I couldn't look at everyone, but what I did see was shocking, because primarily most of them were women, and most of them were women who read nothing but porn. Their profiles were the kinds of women who list all the types of porn books they like to read. They list what their kinks are. The only books on their read list for the majority of these people leaving 5-star reviews were just thousands of porn novels. Just to give you some examples, one of them says, "Just a girl who loves all shades of scorching hot smut, light, grey and dark, wishing she had more time to read. My reads: I like my heroes to be of the OTT alpha hole variety. I'm a sucker for dirty talking strangers, somophiliacs, daddies, bullies, reverse harems, and forbidden lovers. Slow burns, cliffhangers, unnecessary long drawn out books, and gore for the sake of gore are my triggers. Happily ever afters are a requirement." And check out all the many other screenshots I'm popping on screen now. At this point, like, for these people, it's just porn addiction, right? Like, and they've become so desensitized to sexual violence through consuming so much porn that they need it to become more and more graphic and extreme. And this is becoming so normalized, and it worries me. Like, it genuinely does. And don't get me wrong, I'm not against erotica as a whole. I think if that's what you enjoy reading and you want to get off to that, and it's healthy and consensual and between adults, then great, you go for it. I have no problem with that. But I think, as with anything in life, it should be consumed in moderation. If you're consuming quite literally hundreds of erotic novels every year and nothing else, that might be the sign that you have a problem. Why do you need sexual content in something to be able to enjoy it? It's like a certain BookTok creator who I really dislike because she scares me and I think she's quite nasty and cruel, literally has in her bio something like, "If it doesn't contain smut, I'm not reading it." And I'm like, can you imagine if people, or like especially men, said this about any other content? Like they said something like, "I'm only going to watch film and visual media if it contains porn and sex scenes," and they refused to watch anything that didn't have explicit sex scenes in. Like, we'd be concerned, wouldn't we? We'd be concerned, wouldn't we? Like, "Oh, do you want to see the new Batman film? Oh no, sorry, it doesn't have sex in it, I'm not interested." Like, you'd be concerned by that, wouldn't you? So why aren't we concerned by women who read nothing but smut? And then when the porn you're consuming regularly has to be violent and have women degraded in it and put in danger again and again and again, I think that is a concerning sign that you're becoming desensitized to violence against women, and again, that concerns me. I think if you're someone who just likes to read and you read a lot of genres and you read the occasional smutty book and you enjoy it, but it's a healthy consensual adult relationship, then I have no problem with that. I'm never going to judge someone for doing that. But if the only thing you're consuming is pornography, and it's violent and degrading pornography, then I think there is an issue there. A lot of people have said to me that it's anti-feminist to be against something which is mostly consumed by women, but to me that's massively missing the point. This isn't about crapping on something women enjoy for the sake of putting women down. It's about saying, damn, this media is really degrading to women and dangerous for women, and I worry about the women who are consuming it, and also judge them a little bit for how much they enjoy seeing other women degraded. And to me, that stance cannot possibly be anti-feminist, but quite the opposite. The other thing that concerns me is looking at a lot of these profiles. A lot of people say like, "Oh, well, you know, it's adults reading this. It said it's for like over 18s and adults can tell the difference between fact and fiction." No, that's not what I saw. Looking at a lot of these profiles, a hell of a lot of them were very, very young women who started reading these books at 15, 16 years old. Some of them, plenty of them, were still under the age of 18. And I would hate to think what effect reading books like this will have on their perceptions of what a healthy relationship should be as they get older. Plenty of studies have been done that show the effects of violent pornography in general. Mostly these are centered around films rather than books, but I would argue that you're likely to see the same patterns amongst book readers, and some studies do. We'll talk about them in a minute. So in the book Aggression in Pornography, Myths and Realities by Erin Shaw and Kimberly Sader, they wrote that greater exposure to aggressive sexual interactions in pornography has been linked to more permissive attitudes towards aggression, coercion, and sexual violence towards women, as well as to a greater proclivity to commit sexual assault. And you can see this is backed up by at least 5 or 6 different studies done over many, many years. Now, like I say, this is primarily talking about the effects on men, but if studies show that men who watch porn with sexual violence against women are more likely to excuse or commit sexual assault, then surely we can argue that women who read porn with sexual violence against women are also more likely to excuse or become victims of sexual assault. Or, as we've seen at the case of the convention with H.D. Carlton's friend, also more likely to commit sexual assault themselves. I mean, obviously more research would have to be done in this, but I don't think it's unreasonable to be concerned about this possibility, especially when studies have been done that show this can be the case, and there are literal anecdotal evidence of, like, you know, H.D. Carlton's fans going out and sexually assaulting a man. Do you know what I mean? What research has been done found that studies that examined the effects of aggressive content in pornography on women found that those who read pornographic materials that included violence were more likely to blame the victims rather than the perpetrators of the act. Another 2015 study similarly reported that higher levels of pornography consumption among women predicted attitudes supporting sexual violence against women. And this is not just a new thing either. These studies were all done between 2000 and 2017, something like that. So over the last 25 years. But this goes all the way back to the 80s and 90s as well, when violent pornography began to kind of greatly increase in popularity, and several studies started to look into it. So in the book Making Violence Sexy, Feminist Views on Pornography, studies in the 90s found that sexual violence in the media might lead to attitudes that are more accepting of violence against women through labeling sexual violence more as a sexual rather than a violent act, adding to perceptions that sexual aggression is normative and culturally acceptable, changing attributions of responsibility to place more blame on the victims, elevating the positive value of sexual aggression by associating it with sexual pleasure and a sense of conquest, and reducing negative emotional reactions to sexually aggressive acts. Other studies found that after watching violent pornography, sexual aggression and abuse was perceived as causing less suffering for the victims. Male sexual callousness towards women was significantly enhanced. For example, there was an increased acceptance of statements such as "a woman doesn't mean no until she slaps you," "a man should find them, fool them, F them and forget them," and "if they're old enough to bleed, they're old enough to butcher." It also increased people's likelihood to, and again I quote, "trivialize rape, have sex-callous attitudes, and accept male dominance in intimate relationships." In regards to specifically women, the studies in this book found that watching violent sexual content encouraged females to get into high rape risk situations. Pornography is more often used to try to persuade a woman or child to engage in certain acts, to legitimize the acts, and to undermine their resistance, refusal, or disclosure of these acts. The book goes on to say, in a more recent study conducted in Canada, Charlene Sen found the more pornography women were exposed to, the more likely they were to have been forced or coerced into sexual activity they didn't want, and so on and so on and so on. All these books written between 1990 and 2022 all find the same things, that repeated exposure to violent pornography, whether it be visual or written, can have negative effects on people and how they view themselves and other women.
Again, sorry, editing me is just going to jump in here because I want to just make it very clear that I'm not just anti-porn in general. That is not the case at all. I think there are plenty of studies that, well, there's studies on both sides that are really interesting. I will acknowledge that there is exploitation and negative aspects about the sex work industry and the pornography industry, which can't be ignored. But at the same time, there are studies that have found that having a healthy relationship with porn can help people feel more confident about themselves, more comfortable in their sexuality. There are positive aspects to it. And I don't think it's all bad. I'm not going to be against a woman reading erotica in general. That's not what I have a problem with. I have a problem with the sexualization, glorification, romanticization, and excusing of violence, especially sexual violence against women. And that is what has been shown to be dangerous again and again. So I just want to make that really clear.
But okay, let's move on before I get too upset. Let's go back to this horrific book. So they're not even at the party yet. They've just pulled up outside. They go inside the party. It's a bunch of rich people doing rich people things, and I really do not care about it at all. We get the whole Addie is such a quirky girl with anxiety, but she's also a master manipulator nonsense again, with paragraphs like, "I, on the other hand, am not a natural. The social anxiety licks at my nerves, keeping my heart rate well above a normal pace. I smile at the strangers and laugh at everything they say, doing what I do best and manipulate people's emotions with my words. I pretend they're all avid readers and the words I'm speaking are printing on blank sheets of paper for their greedy eyes to consume. And I'm sorry, but you can't keep calling yourself a master manipulator if we never actually see you manipulating anyone or any consequences of your so-called manipulation. It's just nonsense. It's hollow and it's meaningless. So Mark is there, obviously it's his party, and we meet his wife, who is called Claire, and we're meant to feel like Mark is a mean, terrible man. I mean he is. I'm not disagreeing with that. Because he abuses his wife, and she is such a victim because he's abused her. I will withhold my judgment on that because you'll see. She widens her lips into a beautiful smile, and Mark introduces her to Zaid and I. What irks me is that he doesn't tell us her name, he just says, my wife. As if she's merely a possession and not her own person with her own effing identity outside of her marriage to this wretched man. She's nervous, scared. It doesn't take a genius to figure out that this woman is abused. My eyes subtly search her body, but the high neck, long sleeves and full-length dress hide her body. It's a beautiful dress, but one clearly designed to disguise the bruises that I'm sure are staining her skin beneath the silky fabric. And yet this is awful, but how is it any more awful than the bruises that Addie currently has all over her body because Zaid bit her repeatedly during a sexual assault? What about the bruises that she's gonna get on her neck because he literally just choked her with a belt half an hour earlier? Why is it bad when this happens to Claire, but not bad when this happens to Addie? And just to make this whole interaction even more insensitive, Zaid and Addie talk and are like, oh god, that poor woman, she's being abused. Yeah, she is. Should we sneak off and have sex? Oh, I don't know, I don't think I want to. Well, I want to. Yeah, okay then. And then they had this horrific scene in like a cinema in the house where Zaid calls himself her daddy and she says, are you saying you're my daddy? She sputters out incredulously, bringing my attention back to her. That's right, baby, and you're my good little girl, I croon, sliding my tongue across her lower lip and looking at her like, F, the things I want to do to this woman, things that would show her just how insane I can be. I think it's only fair that in future this book is sold alongside a puke bucket because I need it. If you, I hate this. If you were my little girl, I would worship every inch of your body for as long as our souls are tethered to this earth. My tongue would leave no part of you untouched. I nip at her bottom lip, wringing a whimper from her throat. Untasted, I murmur, my tongue darting out, sliding along the seam of her lips. Let's not. He goes on for pages of this, like, if you were my little girl, and making them super sexual, and it's just, I'm sorry, you can't be Mr. Anti-Pedo when you're saying stuff like this and calling the woman you've been raping your little girl. I hate this. Anyway, this is the first time in this entire book that their sexual contact is anywhere close to consensual, but even during this, it's arguably not, because she still says no a few times, and it's very uncomfortable. So, afterwards they go and speak to Mark about the murder, and I got really confused about people's ages here, because it's kind of implied that, like, Mark just acts exactly like everyone else, and he acts like Zaid, so I thought they were both like 40-year-old men, but it turns out that Zaid is like 30-something, and Mark is like 85, and I was like, wait, what? And I only figured it out because I did the math, right? So the book so far made it sound like Mark is like 40 or 50. His wife, we know, is in her 40s, and he has like tons of energy, and he's always going out drinking and doing whatever, and he's having sex with a bunch of people, and he's sacrificing and murdering children, which, you know, I think takes a lot of effort, doesn't it? And like, I don't know any 85-year-olds who would have the energy to do that, but here we are. But then he says that the story has the great-grandmother dying in 1944, which was 75 years ago, according to this book. But then Mark says he remembers her, and he was 10 years old when she died, so that makes him 85 years old, and it just all feels kind of unbelievable. I found it very confused. I feel like the author didn't think this through. Anyway, we find out that great-granddad had a gambling problem and owed a bunch of money to the mob boss that Ronaldo worked for, so he worked off his debts for him, and in the end, Ronaldo stepped in and was like, oh no, don't kill him, because I'm having an affair with his wife, but I'm not going to say that out loud, but there's something here. And then Mark is in a secret society, and there's a video being leaked of other people in the society sacrificing children and doing a ritual and whatever, and then we do a time skip forward, and Mr. Stalker Man is assaulting Addie again, and he starts to try and teach her self-defense, but nearly kills her in the process by choking her again. It's just... And then there's another time skip, and then Addie and Daya are going to go to the Halloween fair with haunted houses called Satan's Affair, because of course it is, because this was written by an edgy teenager apparently, and they get drunk before they go, because of course they do, because Addie and Daya can't do anything in this book without being drunk all the time, because apparently they have no personalities otherwise. We are going to get through this book. We got this. While they're at the fair, Addie and Daya bump into Mark, his wife, and the 3 other creeps that he killed the kid with. I can't remember their names. It's not really important. They're just like men there. They don't have personalities of their own or anything. They're just there. And like, I know the author wanted to put everyone together at the same time, so like action could happen, but do we really, really believe that 4 85-year-old men and one of them's 40-year-old wife are going to a Halloween haunted house together? I keep trying to suspend my disbelief for this book, but then things just keep taking me out of it. Anyway, you know, the child murdering cult I can believe, but this is too far. Oh, God's sake. Zaid tries to offer us an explanation by saying Mark and his partners came here with the intention of stealing a child or two, though they'd never do the dirty work themselves. They're public figures and would never risk being caught. So apparently they've come to a haunted house to say to their associates, I want that one and that one and that one and that one, and then apparently they go and kidnap all these children for them and whatever. I don't believe it. God's sake. Anyway, there's a really bizarre scene in a haunted house where this woman is dressed up as a broken doll, and then Zaid is silently following Addie and Daya to protect them, but they don't know it, and then the broken doll woman is like, surprise, I'm gonna kill you, to Zaid, and then Zaid just leaves the house and he's like, no you're not, goodbye, and then he catches up with Mark and the other men, and it turns out, oh my god, they're not here to capture children, they're here to kidnap Addie, because they've been watching her for months and she's just so special and perfect that the entire society wants her, and she's the most perfect and expensive woman on earth, and they need her and they're going to kidnap her and but then Broken Doll Woman shows up and is like, I'm going to kill you all, and then the chapter ends on a cliffhanger. Meanwhile, Addie and Daya are oblivious to all this. Addie decides to go wandering through the House of Mirrors alone, and while she's in there, Zaid appears and tries to scare her. The timeline here was really confusing to me, because I was like, wait, he was just about to get murdered, and now suddenly he's here stalking her, and we're not supposed to ask what happened in that time? No? Okay, never mind then. Anyway, in the House of Mirrors, which is apparently everyone's favourite scene, and I just found it so damn stupid and gross and weird. I don't get it. I don't get it. He's like, you need to run or I'll have sex with you here in public. And she's like, maybe I should, maybe I shouldn't. And then comes out with stupid lines like, he's such an effing oxymoron, contradicting in the most agonizing ways. I mean, he is a hypocrite, but this is still a stupid line. He does catch her in the House of Mirrors, and she tells him to stop and explicitly says she does not want to sleep with him. She says it twice, and then he's like, nah, I know your body better than you do, which made me want to burn this book. And despite all her literal, very outspoken protests, she does say, and I will give her this, for the first time, this moment with Zaid feels consensual. I'm not sure if I want that, but what effing sense does that make, to not want it to be consensual? Yet there's some sick part of me that wants him to force this so I can play victim later, go on pretending that my P-word isn't weeping for him and that I'm not anticipating the feel of him inside me. This is such an unhealthy, messed up book. Go to therapy. And by that I mean Addie and the author and anyone who enjoys reading this and thinks it's romance in any way. As the scene goes on, it's horrible to read. He degrades her. He lists out the names of every person she's ever slept with in her entire life. God knows how he knew them, but he does. And he threatens to kill them all, one by one. He shoves her around, and when he finally has penetrative sex with her, she says it hurts, and she feels like she's literally tearing down there, and she begs him to stop, and he won't. Again, this is rape. If it was consensual in the first place, that's fine, but then it hurts her and she begs him to stop. That means she stopped consenting, and it's rape. And apparently this whole rape lasts 2.5 hours in a public funhouse. Make it make sense. Now apparently the funhouse has shut and she didn't realise, and there's no staff working there apparently, and they can just go at it in public. But I still hate this. The next chapter is Zaid's again, and he's so pathetic. He says, I don't know how I'm supposed to concentrate when I just found God, or rather I think I just became one. Stop it. Look, I like sex as much as the next person, but there really is more to life than just an orgasm, you know? Like, get a life, please. Get some hobbies. Anyway, he goes back to meet the woman dressed as the doll, who he just refers to as Psycho Girl, because apparently this book needs more misogyny. And that cliffhanger that the last chapter ended on, yeah, all the action that happened after that just happened off page, and we get it told as a throwaway line. We get the summary of, after our confrontation, the broken doll and I decided to team up for the time being. Since Mark decided to take matters into his own hands and try and kidnap and enslave my girl, I decided he was no longer worth keeping alive. The 2 seconds it took for him to conspire against Addie was the equivalent of writing his name in a death note. There was no chance of his survival. So we knocked out the 4 of them. The doll said she'd take them somewhere where the guests wouldn't find them and meet up at midnight to get my answers and finish them off for good. And this is why I can just say this book is nothing but mindless porn, you know? There were 12 pages dedicated to them having sex or him raping her in a hall of mirrors. But this, which seems pretty essential in a massive part of the supposed plot, doesn't even get 12 lines. And all the actual action happens off page. This book is just porn. That is it. The rest of it is like filler. Zaid is super patronising to Doll Woman, saying things like, you're effing insane, little girl. Hate this. And then it turns out they've got the 4 old men politicians tied up in one of the haunted houses for whatever reason. And Doll Woman is like, yeah, I do this all the time. I just kill people for funsies. Hee 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 hee. And then for some reason Zaid goes on a rant about how he doesn't care about politics, saying, I don't give 2 Fs about politics either, at least not the kind that deals with laws and regulations. I break those on a daily basis. The F would I care about what laws are getting passed when I've never applied them to my life anyway. And this is spoken like a true privileged straight cis white man, isn't it? Like, how about you actually care because laws and politics affect other people and their lives and whether they're able to safely live their lives or not, no? Just because you go around breaking laws all the time, that doesn't mean everyone else does. And laws aren't just there for your benefit and what affects you. How about you stop thinking about yourself and care about other people for a change, yeah? Doll Woman calls the bad men demons and starts killing them, and then Mr. Stalker Rapist is patronising and misogynistic as ever, and I hate him so much. Now you're going to stop me from demon slaying, she shrieks, her voice pitched so high it nearly makes me cringe. God, effing women and their screeching. Little girl, there are quite a few things you need to get serious help for, but I'd say anger management is top of the list, says you. We find out her name is Sybil, but she prefers to be called Sibby. Okay. Turns out she's been living in the walls of this haunted house fairground place, and the only friends she has are these like henchmen who are men she imagines are around her and with her. Yeah. There's more torture scenes that just go on for a few pages. Mark spills about the creepy child sacrificing rituals where they take place. Apparently Addie is so special and she's been marked by the society, and the creepy cult / secret organization they've been running this for ages and whatever, and they want Addie so they can sell her into sex slavery or use her as a sex slave because she's worth millions, because she's the most perfect woman on earth and no one comes close to her, and why did they target her? Mark sputters out a wet, humorless laugh. Why do they target anyone? If they're young, beautiful, and happen to be noticed, they're on the society's radar. She brought attention to herself in one way or another. It could have been from her looks, or you know how women are these days, with the way they dress. I snatch his hand away and flick off another nail before he can finish such a stupid effing sentence. As if showing any amount of skin is a goddamn invitation to be raped and kidnapped. At least that last line was sensible, so thank you. It's a shame that you've raped Addie because you said you couldn't resist the way she looked, so you're still victim blaming even if you're being a hypocrite now. So, he kills them. They kind of get caught on the way out, and he lets Sibby take the blame for the murders and get arrested by the police. And then there's this like long info dump of tragic backstory for her. Her dad was a cult leader. Her mother committed suicide. Then Sibby killed her dad, who I'm not sure if it's implied he sexually assaulted her or not, I'm not sure. But she killed her dad and left, so that's fun. He was a cult leader who, had 10 billion children within his cult, because he was the only father, or, the only person allowed to father kids with, a ton of women and whatever. So she has, a crap ton of half-siblings out there. But she killed him and left, and the cult disbanded. And since then, she's just travelled around with this haunted house, killing people. Yay! Zaid is on a mission to track down society and goes to some other members club full of creepy men and naked drugged women again, just like the last one. There's so many of them in this book. They're all very samey, aren't they? Zaid, posing as Zach, asks to be initiated into society and pretends he's into kids, and they're like, okay, next week, end of chapter. In Addie's chapter, she decides she definitely doesn't want to be with Zaid, and she tells him this and tries to call the police to get him out of her house, but he stops her and strangles her again. And we get this interaction. Stop it, I choke, attempting to get away, but his grip holds firm, tightening around my throat until black pinpricks dot my vision. And he keeps touching her without consent, and it literally says, my body reacts without permission. This is what happens in rape. Just because your body is responding, this doesn't mean it's not rape. It is still rape. He literally says to her that he is allowing her to breathe and she should be grateful for that, except he's not because he's strangling her. The hand around my throat pulses, tightening almost to unbearable levels. I rise on the tip of my toes to decrease the pressure, but he doesn't let up. Blood rushes to my head and fear begins to pump through my veins. Just when I think he's not going to stop, his hand loosens and I greedily suck in precious air. But he doesn't let me breathe for much longer. He twists my body around and backs me towards the wall beside the TV, smiling viciously as I stumble away from him and towards exactly where he wants me to be. When I'm a foot away, he grabs me and slams me into a wall, pressing the entire length of his body against mine. Before I take another breath, his hand is once more encircling my throat, his mouth is on mine. Just like he said, I let him consume me. Tears burn the back of my eyes as his mouth tears my lips apart, feasting on my tongue without permission. I can't do this. This is just assault. I don't know how many times I have to keep saying it. She manages to knee him in the groin and then escape out of the house and is running barefoot through the woods, that surround her house looking for a spot to hide. But he catches her, pins her to the ground before there's more back and forth between them of her going, you kill people. Yes, but I want to have sex with you. I don't want to have sex with you. Yes, you do, because I kill bad people. It's dull, it's repetitive, and then it's followed by another sexual assault. And then after the sexual assault, there is a penetrative sex scene where she does consent to it. So I guess there's some grey area there. I don't know. It's still full of the cringiest lines I've ever heard. It's awful. It's poorly written. It's worse than the "sing for me a little bird" lines. God's sake, my P word milks him dry, and you have 5 seconds before I rearrange your organs. Who reads this stuff and enjoys it? This is the least sexy thing I've ever read, other than the rape. You know what I mean? This video is exhausting me. I'm just going to take a break here for a moment and just chat with you for a bit, because I do feel the need to apologise sometimes for tripping over my words when I speak. I do it a hell of a lot. I have always had issues with a slight lisp and trouble pronouncing a lot of words because of all the I actually don't know if you guys know this. I've had tooth issues my whole life, and I had my front teeth taken out when I was a kid, and I've still have problems with them. I have fillings in all my front teeth, so for the first so between the ages of about 2 and 9, I didn't have front teeth, which meant I learned to speak without front teeth there. And then my adult teeth grew in, and suddenly I was like, oh god, because that was hard enough. I don't know if you've ever tried speaking without teeth, but a lot of lisps and stuttering and slipping up over words. And then my teeth grew in, and suddenly I didn't know where to put my tongue, and it was like I was kind of learning to speak all over again in a way. And it was really hard, and I still had a slight lisp and tripped over words and things like that. And you would think that by 32 I'd be used to it by now, but I do find it particularly hard. And I think because I spend so much time alone, and it's just me and Kyra in the house, most of the time, most days a week, I do struggle with speaking still, and I still stutter occasionally, and I trip over my words quite a lot, and I just struggle to get words out. And I think my brain moves faster than my mouth a lot of the time, and so I struggle with stuff. And especially because I've been having a lot of brain fog recently with all my health issues and all the chronic pain issues and everything, that just makes it worse. So when I'm filming, I have to retake a lot of lines. I probably cut out almost as much video as I keep in, because it's just me tripping over words and saying the wrong things. And sometimes I don't always know sometimes I don't always notice I've tripped up over words, so they accidentally get kept in the video. Sometimes there's so many mistakes that I miss a couple here and there, and I can't always cut them out. But I do a hell of a lot of editing, a hell of a lot, and it takes me absolutely hours because I have so much I need to cut out because I struggle so much talking. So I feel like I need to apologise for the ones that accidentally get kept in. I've seen some people saying online that they think I do zero editing of my videos at all, and that I keep mistakes in on purpose because I'm lazy. And I'm like, oh no, you should see how much I cut out. I would never intentionally want to keep this stuff in. And I can only apologise for the ones that slip through and get in there. So that's something I think I just wanted to say kind of publicly to everyone and apologise for. Because at the end of the day, I'm human, and I have my things that I struggle with, and talking is one of them, which is ironic because this is my job. But yeah, I'm sorry that I make mistakes and don't always catch all of them and can't always correct all of them in time. And yeah, I'm sorry for that. Okay, I think it's especially when I'm quite emotional as well, and a lot of my topics do make me emotional. I definitely trip up my words a lot more there and get a bit more stuttery with it. It's just I don't know. Yeah, it's just one of those things, isn't it? I think. And I have good days and bad days. Some days I'm absolutely fine, and others I'm like, oh, I can't get a single word out. Anyway, shall we move on? Yes, let's move on. We are going back to Mr. Rapist's narration next, and he complains that his penis is sore. Oh, boo-hoo. Poor little Zaid. He hurt his little penis raping women. Oh, boo-hoo. Shut up. I hate him. Get over yourself, Mr. Rapist. How do you think she feels when, in the funhouse scene, she literally told you tore her labia / inside of her vagina and you didn't care and carried on, and now we're supposed to feel sorry for you because the tip of your penis is a little bit sore? Annoys me. There's a lot of just talking back and forth, and Zaid tells Addie and the audience all this stuff that we already know about his job. She's being targeted, blah blah blah, he's catching predators, blah blah blah. None of it's new, it's just page filler. We didn't need all of this repeated to us because we're already aware of it. And it's all punctuated with needless sexual references and innuendos and oh, I'd like to stick my tongue inside your hole and whatever, randomly. And it's not, you're talking about child rape, and then all of a sudden he's like, ooh, like to give it to you though, and it's it's not really necessary, is it? Anyway, Daya shows up, there's more and more repetition, yawn, let's move on. Then there's this envelope sent to Addie with photos of her great-grandmother and some man, and then there's this letter from this guy saying he's loved her forever and ever and ever, and how dare she marry another, and how dare she have an affair with someone that isn't him, and it's not signed by anyone, but it's clearly from the husband's best friend, Frank, the police guy, the dead guy's dad, Mark's dad, or granddad, or dad, one of him. It's from him. We know it's from him. It's not signed, but we know it's from him. Daya finds out by doing a reverse image search on her computer, because it's that simple, that the guy in the photo is Ronaldo, I think, or something like that, and that one of the other guys is Frank, and like they finally realize, oh, maybe Frank killed her, and it's like, yes, well, of course he did, we all knew this, it's not a twist. They decide to go look for more evidence in the attic of the house, but they're both scared of ghosts, because ghosts exist in this book, remember, even though we haven't seen or heard from them in hundreds of pages and we don't see them again. Up in the attic they find a bloody watch, the same one that Frank had on in the photos of him, and now they're like, we know it was him, we found his bloody watch, now we just need to prove it. Why? Everyone involved is dead. You have enough evidence to know for yourselves. Just at this point, give it to the police and let them get on with it. You know, anyway. I'm not invested in this story at all. I'm sorry. Next up, Zaid is off to some cult party where they're going to try him rape and or kill a child as part of his initiation, and he's just playing along with this. Meanwhile, he has his men working for him, watching Addie to keep her safe. His little sidekick Jay says he'll be watching her too, and Zaid warns him not to hit on Addie, and Jay says, because he's a decent human being, just kidding dude, I like my women willing. And Zaid says, or narrates, a wicked smile forms, though the heat in my eyes remains. Sounds to me like you don't understand a woman's body well enough to know when it sings for you, even when her mouth tries to resist. No, you're just a disgusting rapist. Listen to women. At the party, they bring out like a 6-year-old girl and say they're going to eat her, like in front of this child. They're like, come on, little girl, we're going to kill and eat you now. I mean, I get you have to try and make these characters so evil that they seem worse than your main character who is a rapist stalker. But cannibal, child-eating, sex trafficker rapists just feels like a bit too much. It's not even that, it's cannibal, child-eating, sex trafficker rapists who secretly control the government. It feels unbelievable and ridiculous, and like it's undermining the seriousness of it all. I don't know. Cut back to Addie, and they get final proof that Frank is the killer, just like we all knew, and we knew like a third of the way through the book, and they just dragged this out for too long, and so Addie and Daya get drunk to celebrate, because of course they do, but not before they have another shock reveal. Addie's grandmother, who was just 16 at the time, helped cover up her own mother's murder and hid the watch in the attic so Frank wouldn't be blamed for God knows what reason. I still don't understand why she did that. She covered up her own mother's murder. They concluded that she must have been forced to do it, but I don't really understand. So back to the party, and it's just a few pages of men making rapey jokes about murdering and raping the child in front of her, and creepy Zaid goes along with this until he hits a button on his watch and calls in fake FBI agents to raid the house and capture everyone in it. Meanwhile, he rescues the child, and the plan is to use the fake FBI to fake charge all the cult members with drug smuggling charges, but then release them because there's not enough evidence, because they're not actually drug smugglers, and then Zaid can go back and kill them all. I don't know why he's not just killing them now. He's clearly got the men to do... I don't get it. I don't get this stupid plan. It's convoluted and stupid. This is immediately followed by him going back to Addie's and contemplating raping her in her sleep, but then she wakes up, so they just have sex again, and it's quite boring. It's all like, oh, F this, F that, I wanna F you, baby, you like that, baby? Oh, F Addie, oh, F Zaid, oh yeah, baby, you that, baby, baby. Shut up. I'm bored. Zaid decides he wants to adopt the random 6-year-old girl that he saved from being eaten, which is ridiculous because he is a predator and should not be allowed around children. But then Addie is like, oh, I don't know if I'm ready for that. And Zaid's like, whenever you're ready, babe, whenever you're ready. And then he goes back to the club for another child killing and eating ritual where they have like men in hoods, and he's there ready to be initiated, and he's got the knife and he's going to kill the kid, but then he doesn't kill the kid, he kills one of the other guys, and then a huge fight breaks out and he's killing everyone he can, and he has inside men inside the club killing people, and then suddenly there's a massive explosion that the other guys did because this was a trap for him and his men, and then boom, everyone's dying and there's explosions everywhere, and Jay runs in and he's like, no, see, it's a setup, they knew we were coming, and then someone points a gun at Zaid and Jay. End of chapter. Back to Addie's, and she's talking to her mum on the phone, and it turns out that Addie's mum is the one who sent her the photos because she already knew about the murder and her mum's role in it, and that's why she wasn't really friends with her mum, because she's like, you covered up your mum's murder, why should I be okay with you? And so then I guess like Addie growing up and being like, oh my god, my grand's amazing, this woman who covered up her mum's murder is so amazing, and then her mum was like, I don't get it, and that's what caused the rift in the family. And so her mum was like, I just wanted to like cover this all up and stop this being like a big public thing and never talk about it instead of your gran, and it was a whole thing of blah blah. And Addie's like, oh god, I understand, I'm gonna tell the world about it. And so she does, and it's all suddenly like on the news, and there's reporters camped out on her porch and blah 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 and whatever. And it doesn't really seem like it would necessarily be newsworthy, solving a 75-year-old murder of a random woman in a tiny town, but apparently it is, and all the national newspapers are here and seem to care about it for whatever reason. And then in the night, she wakes up to a text apparently from Daya, being like, I'm really upset, can you come over now? So Addie's like, yeah, sure, and then she calls her and there's no answer, so she's like, oh, well, I better go over there. But on the drive over, her car gets rammed by another car and run off the road, and then Addie's in a massive car accident, and it turns out that a couple of random men who say they're working for Max, who is the friend of Archie, the guy that she nearly slept with that Zaid killed. Max has hired these two men to run her off the road and kidnap her, and that's where the book ends. Zaid is being held at gunpoint after an explosion in the cult. Addie is kidnapped by two men working for Max. We're told the book ends on a cliffhanger, and I'm like, this is fine, so I'm fine with the ending here, this is okay. But what the hell was with the random ghosts throughout the book? They had nothing to do with anything. Why were they even there? And that is the end of Haunting Adeline, Book 1 in the Cat and Mouse series. If you would like to take a break here, I would recommend it, because we are going to move on to Book 2 now, Hunting Adeline, which is so disgustingly dark. It is unnecessary torture porn, and I hate it.
Alright, lovely people, I was going to make this one big video reviewing both books, but it's already 3 hours long, and this is kind of exhausting, and I gotta go pick Kyra up from my parents. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to end this video here today, and I will work on editing the second part, reviewing the second book, and it will be out in a day or two. I'm going to try and get them out as close together as possible, but I already know exporting this video is going to be a whole nightmare, and I've got a hell of a lot going on in life at the minute. So I'm going to get out as much content to you as I possibly can, and we're going to work through this, we're going to do this. But for now, let me know what you thought of this first book. I'm so sorry to change my plans like this, to split them up, but I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you again very, very soon for the second one. I'm going to be as quick as possible with it as I can be. Okay, thank you, and I appreciate you guys. Bye.